Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is May the 12th of 2021. I am unintelligible Nick, here with undefatigable Chris.
Ooh, those are way too complicated words. That would actually be an Undead Unluck. They would just make one up.
Yeah, they would. It would
I
be more like unangry and unsad or something like that.
Oh, I'm not sad in this universe. It's great. I want to go to that one. Unsad.
Yeah, that's right. I'm always chill. I never get angry over stupid shit.
I erase sadness. That's great. I'm happy about this universe now.
We are gonna be talking before we get to all of the recommendations, which we didn't have manga last week, so there's a little bit stockpiled up. We are gonna be talking about a series called Undead Unluck, which for a long time people were saying, "No, Nick, you need to give it another try. We swear it's better." And I was like, "No." And so before we get to that, how are you doing today, Chris?
I'm good. I'm doing real good. I don't know. I was about to try to like come up with like an antidote topic, and I was like, no, nothing really crazy happened today. Just generally a pretty good day all around. Can't complain. How about yourself?
And this is the least WMR opening. Like we can't we've got to go off on a tangent.
Oh,
like, what's happening? We are on the undistractable or something like that.
Unfocused. Yeah.
That's normally what we are.
Yeah. Well, that's our normal power. We have the ability to create tangents whenever we don't need to, basically. And there's a tragic backstory that like one day I was trying to I was trying to explain to someone how to defuse a bomb, and I started going off on like Jackie Chan season plot threads, and like because unfocused developed, and the person was like, "What? Cut the blue wire?" And I was like, "No!" And he died. That's my sad backstory.
It wasn't your fault.
Well,
it's okay.
I hold it against me. Now tangents are something I weaponize to protect people.
Exactly.
Yeah. And by weaponize, I mean I tape blades to my mouth, so when I go off on a tangent, they shoot out and stab people.
So the series we're talking about is called Undead Unluck, which begins in its very, very, very basic beginnings as a series about a girl named Fuko who has a cursed body whoever she touches triggers her unluck ability. The more that she likes the person and the longer she touches them and more skin contact that it's with, the causes a proportionate amount of bad luck to happen to them. Usually violent bad luck.
Yes.
I don't think that they've ever demonstrated that like if she happens to poke somebody that they'll lose their car keys. They will trip and fall and break their hand.
It's more egregious the longer you touch somebody, because we see in the one flashback she basically touches somebody and one person's chair breaks and the other person has like a drink spilled on them. So It gets severely worse if it's contact of any prolonged sort. But it's also one of those things that's like kind of up to whatever the narrative needs. So like someone could like brush her hand and like a wall will collapse on top of them. So it's not exactly a science.
Also, they start learning how to predict the unluck, which sounds like it's defeating the purpose. But anyway, because she can't touch someone physically, she decides that she needs to kill herself because she doesn't have anything to live for, and also because she is literally dangerous to be kept alive. So she tries to kill herself. Before she can, a random, weird, half-naked man walks up and grabs her, and because of her unluck ability, a freaking train hits him, and it looks like it kills him. No, he can't die because he has the undead ability. Literally anything that harms him and potentially puts his life in danger, he just regenerates the damage from. And he has, over a very long life, learned to actually weaponize this regenerative ability into his combat style. He'll deliberately injure himself in order to fire off parts of his body like bullets, for example. They strike up a weird friendship based on his wanting to touch her so that he can hopefully eventually die because he wants to, actually die someday and he can't. And him being the only one that she can literally have any normal contact with that won't die immediately. It's very creepy for about the first 3 or 4 chapters, and because he keeps on saying, "Hey, I want to fuck you," in order to actually trigger the most amount of unlock possible, and that gets dropped pretty much entirely. So.
Yeah, so people who are listening, who have been listening to Weekly Manga Recap for a while, will know this was a Jump series that we did talk about. We did our normal 3-chapter thing. It was what, early last year, around the same time Mashle came out, I believe. And we dropped it after the 3 chapters because we just weren't feeling it. And there were a lot of really kind of creepy vibes going on between the main lead characters. And that was sort of the thing that kept a lot of people from getting into this series. And it is, to this day, the hardest thing to, like, if I want to explain it to somebody, get someone into it, I'm like, oh man, it's so awesome. The stuff later on is crazy. So the first 8 chapters are kind of really creepy. Like it's super awkward, but later on, weirdly, they develop into one of the best written romances in Jump, kind of right now. Like it's actually pretty decent. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
Hold on. Let me look at the list of Jump series real quick. But yeah, you go ahead. I'm gonna.
Yeah, but that's the thing is you said it, that's what held you up, but I think that's what held Absolutely. A lot of people from wanting to check out this series. Is you basically had to explain, look, I totally get why the start of this series is super uncomfortable and makes you believe that this would not be something I would want to stick with going forward. But trust me, that aspect of it kind of gets dropped, and eventually it just becomes a really cool battle anime. So it's one of those weird things you kind of have to work over.
Okay, I can think of maybe 1 or 2 series that have better romantic relationships than Undead Unluck, so I think you've got a point.
Yeah.
1, maybe 2. That's basically it. So, yeah, I think that it might have just kind of been one of those things where it's like, hey, we need to grab people's attention, so fan service kind of thing. It becomes much less of an aspect of the plot, and trust me, as someone who has agreed to go on another podcast in a while and talk about, please don't tease me, Nagatoro-chan, the early parts of the series being weird and problematic are definitely something that it's a big obstacle to try and be like, no, see, it's good because they stopped doing that.
So. I have heard some people say, and this is how it's kind of recommended, you can almost skip to just chapter 8 and even a particular page number if you want, and you will cut out a lot of the parts where it's super awkward. Because the biggest issue is that for the longest time, Fuko is please don't touch me, this is uncomfortable, and things like that. And he's just but I need it to fight bad guys, and also because you might kill me, and that's what I want. And later on, it becomes a consensual thing, and they actually become a team, and they're very happy to work together. So that's where it becomes a bit more acceptable. There's also a weird undertone for a while that he's definitely trying to groom her to have sex with him, because he believes that's going to be the amount of contact needed to kill him. So they're kind of stuck together because he's one day I'm going to woo you until you fuck me. And it's not a fan of this.
It stops being like that, and it starts instead being one day I'm going to make you really fall in love with me, and it becomes much less of a creepy thing and much more of a, damn, this guy's so smooth and cool, because she's being all blushy over him saying smooth and cool lines to her, and clearly actually liking that and stuff. So
yeah. And eventually she starts actually making some of the moves herself as well.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, they grow to actually be a pretty cute couple. His name, by the way, is Andy. He doesn't have an actual name. She calls him Andy because it's short for undead. And it turns out he does have a real name, but it's complicated. So
you know what? So this is something I actually learned about recently in the reread of this. I believe it was Erie Gray in our Discord brought this up. Everyone who's in the Gator in the series, their name is a pun what to negate. So like Andy is undead, like
Right.
Billy
the
is unbelievable or whatever. Juez is
really
injustice. Yeah.
The one that really stood out to me was unknown.
Yeah.
Because that was like, oh, come on. That's.
Oh, no,
It's like, oh, here's a Pokemon over here named. So, the two of them very shortly afterward start getting hunted down by this mysterious organization that sends two members after them to try and kill them. And it turns out that they are being hunted down because they are essentially people called negators, someone who has a special superhuman ability that negates a rule of the world. And rules are also a whole thing.
Yes.
As well as that. I didn't process all of the terminology on my read through, but it's honestly, I don't think anything that you can really like say like, well, there are defined rules to everything. It's like, well, I mean, the rules fluctuate.
I was going to say
that the story wants to do.
The narrative itself also exists in the world. This is supposed to be a world familiar enough that you know everything, but things are specifically not the same as they are in our reality. For example, at the start of the series, you're like, yeah, they live on like Earth, and like the rest of the cosmology is there, right? And then they're like, yes, there's the moon, the sun, the Earth, and nothing else. And then it's a plot line later on that the entire galactic cosmos is then created. Like it's a thing. And only like for everyone who's a negator, they recognize that it wasn't that way yesterday, essentially.
That was actually around the part of the series that actually was where I started really getting into this. It happens around 20 chapters in. So the point that you note about 8 chapters in, that's the point where things start feeling more like the series as it exists now and has been for about the past year of its only 60 chapter long run so far.
Which is insane considering how much stuff has happened in the series.
But excuse me.
Bless you.
The part of the series that actually started to really get me and pull me in is about 20 chapters in. So they have, started having their first adventures as part of this organization, because what happens is one of the first members of this 10-member secret organization, it's got to be 10 members, of course, is one of the people sent to kill them. Andy kills the other one pretty easily. Like, I know, what was his name? Unbreakable or something?
No, well, he was Void was the character, so unavoidable would be what he was.
Right, okay.
And he sucks. And he's killed. And in a series where everything seems to matter so much, no one has ever fucking brought up Void again in their life. Like, I think Shen brings him up once to be like, yeah, I kind of let him die because I wanted to fight someone stronger.
Yes. So Shen takes a huge interest to Andy and Fuko and is like, well, the only way we're ever going to leave you guys alone and not hunt you down, and I know, Andy, you can't die, but we'll keep your head in a box like we did before, because they've done that before, and Fuko, we can kill. So if you don't want that to happen, the only thing you can do is join us. And you can only do that if you two are both sitting on the council. And one seat's open, so you need to go and kill someone else. So he literally just like tells them where to go and find one of his supposed allies.
Yeah. So like the series is very interesting because it is simultaneously one of the series that seems to have the most intricate kind of world building going on. And at the same time, it is the one that clearly is writing itself as it goes along the most, because like there's never really given a firm explanation as to why Unchange needed to be killed in that situation. Like, I know they create one eventually, but it's sort of one of those things that just like, that's odd. Her power was fucking ridiculous. It almost seems like you definitely could have taken out one of the other members of that group with a less crazy ability. Although later on we know there's another Unchange out there because of the way powers work in the world. But also in the first chapter, Andy removes the card that's in his head to just kick a bunch of dudes' asses and then puts it back in. And later on, we never see that again except for the, I'm going to take this card out because it unlocks the super monster side of you, essentially. And you're just like, that also feels like something that was kind of written in along the way. Like, oh, maybe he should like go into a, his fucking
Maybe she could
foxtail
do
form or whatever.
right. He should do unleash his inner hollow and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
So, um, so they join the organization and they go on a mission with Shen, and then they get back from that, and it turns out that they receive their missions from the Book of the Apocalypse, which is a cartoonish book with eyes and a mouth and stuff, and it tells them what to do. And each mission they succeed at, they get a reward for, as in all the languages in the world are now unified. That's a reward you get. Or I'll tell you where to get the location of this artifact that will help you out. Or one of the negators, I'll tell you where to find that. For each one that they don't get, then there's a penalty. Including if they don't do all the missions that are given out, there is a new rule that gets added, which changes the entire way the universe works, because death can be a rule, for example.
Yes.
Everyone dies. Decay is a rule. Everything decays with time, when that wasn't the case before. So all of these things that are assumed to be like universal rules, as you and I kind of know them, don't necessarily exist in this world, but can be added by the book. And honestly, given the knowledge of all those things, Galaxy is probably a more mild one.
Yeah, it's something that makes you very curious what the other 98 rules that were, or punishments that were basically added were. A lot of people bring up chapter 20 as the chapter that kind of got them into it, because it's where we see like sort of the leader of the group show off her ability, and it's this very big cool moment. My moment is chapter, I believe, 19. This is the one right before it. That any chapter that deals with Apocalypse gets like the part of my brain that gets excited for like battle manga just shooting off, because it is a series of just like, here's a bunch of like foreshadowing of things that are about to happen that's going to make your mind start thinking. Like it's still bothering me right now. Unburn is out there. We've yet to see Unburn. I don't know who they are, but they're out there, and I wonder if we're going to see them one day, because that was from like the first like list of missions. So like it's just one of those things that like it gets you excited, because like that's how they teased out Unseen. I want to say years before it happened, but again, the series has only been running for a year, so it was only like 3 months, honestly. But like that's where they tease out all these little things. They give you little previews of everything, and all of it just makes you think so much about the world if you're interested in it. Obviously, like that's what gets me going. Is like I was like, shit, this is really. It reminds me of those chapters of One Piece where like suddenly we see a bunch of things happening in the world, and it's just like, oh, what does that mean? Oh, these characters are around. Like it just has this very exciting thing that lets you delve into it if you want to.
And around that time also is, so the first mission that they actually go on as part of the council is the Decay, the Spoil.
Yes.
That's it. Mission. Where they go into a town and everyone inside of it is rotting like zombies, because that is where the rule, which is basically a monster with world affecting ability, named Spoil, is, and it's turning them all into zombies. And this is the first example I can think of that really hit me, which I think is probably the thing about this series that I like the most, which is it makes you care about minor characters very quickly. Like there's just this teacher that was, sent these little kids into a bunker when Spoil started affecting her town, and you've actually already met her after she's become a zombie. Like Andy, she's one of the few that has maintained her sanity, despite the fact that her body is rotting. And Andy, was cutting his way through a whole bunch of them, and he's like, "Hey, if you still have part of your sanity, then duck so you can lead me to this Spoil thing." And she ducks, and so he goes and he talks with her, and he can understand her because he's started to spoil too. And she tells him that the only thing that she really wants to do is to just wear a wedding dress to a wedding and get married. And so he's like, all right, we're going to go get hitched. And so then after that, he's going to go and do this. And we find out later that like she's the teacher to these kids who gave them the secret to actually surviving the effects of Spoil. And she is able to die happily because Andy helped her to fulfill this one little wish that she wanted to do, and she and the rest of the zombies help fight Spoil by touching Fuko's body as they run by and bum rushing him, so that like planes and stuff are crashing out of the sky to attack it and stuff. and she dies, and everyone feels kind of bad about it because they know she was a nice person. And Fuko afterwards, like, I don't want anyone else to die if I can help it. I want to keep on helping people, and I want to get stronger and better able to use my abilities so I can help people like her who are just normal people with everyday dreams that want to get by.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I think it's like there's at least one person that you feel that way on like every mission that they go on.
Yeah.
Usually a lot more intense than that. I love Tatiana. Like,
well,
Tatiana's great.
Well, that's the thing. So as the story starts to go on, we find out what the ultimate kind of big thing of all this is Union, which is the main group of characters, are doing all of this because they are attempting to get enough power together so that they can kill God. Whatever God is behind all of this, they are going to kill them. That is their goal. And that is an actual thing. There is a God in this universe. People pray to it, and God is an asshole. God is legitimately fucking with these people because every negator basically has a sad backstory of when their power first activates, and it's almost always tragically. Unluck started after her parents hugged her, and then her parents blew up in a fucking Zeppelin accident or whatever, plane crash, whatever. Unmove, a character who shows up later. He stops people when he looks at them. He turned, saw his parents, looked at them, and they were in the middle of the street, and his power activated, kept them from moving, and a truck ran and crushed them and killed them all. Like, everyone gets fucked over by this, and it's extra cruel because people pray to this god. We see Unknown's mother praying to them after God specifically made them vanish. Like they no one can see this person anymore. They can see everyone, but no one can see them anymore. So it's just his mother being like, I hope my fucking son's still alive. Please make sure he's okay. And it's like, God's just fucking up in heaven, just being like, bitch, I did that. Like, it's just one of those things. You're like, dude, fuck God.
And also is going to destroy the world if they don't, achieve these tasks, because they're on a countdown essentially at this point. Because if they trigger the overall penalty where they don't accomplish all the missions that it gives them, then a little tally basically gets put on this slate, and if it fills up, then it's going to trigger Ragnarok. And they are on like 99 out of 100 currently. So if it fucks up, then he's going to blow up the world and kill everyone except Andy. Literally cannot die. And it has been established as canon that Andy has actually survived the end of the world multiple times. He just doesn't remember it because of reasons. So
it's a very cool premise once you start getting into it, because they really start building up the lore, and eventually we run into an antagonist group called Under, who are all basically negators who have all had their lives fucked over, but they're basically just shitheads who kind of all have their own very selfish reasons for wanting to do what they do. One of the main ones we know is Rip, and Rip's whole thing is he's like, yeah, I could work for you guys. Honestly, I probably should, but I selfishly want to go back in time and kind of undo the mistake I made. So I can't do that working with you guys. So I'm gonna work against you.
I can't be a hero. I can't. No.
Oh, it's such a cool moment.
No, it's not.
Fuck you.
I can't be a hero because I'm a tryhard. And so we first get introduced to Under when Andy and Fuko and Tatiana, who is a little girl who is untouchable, and so literally all the space around her, in like a set space around her hair and skin, cannot be penetrated in any way, except in the space directly in front of her mouth when it opens. So she travels around in this specialized globe with a camera on the front, and it looks like she's got a mecha suit essentially, but it's literally her containment device. And so she goes on this mission with Fuko and Andy, and they are going to go and hopefully recruit a new council member who is the Unmove.
They go for Unrepair, because that's what they found out the location for was Unrepair, and it was on a ship basically. And when they get there, they find out they're summoning a negator who is Unmove, and they're like, oh, we'll recruit this guy because Unrepair's a dickhead.
Asshole. We can actually trust this guy to be, a good person, even if he's kind of a coward, and it turns out the Unrepair guy, Rip, yes, is part of this organization so they have a fight and stuff. And they fight, and then after they part ways, it immediately turns out that a member of the council is Aizen.
This is a chapter I gushed about when it first happened. I forget what the actual chapter I replaced it with was, but
I believe that it was it might have been. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I mean, like it might have actually been High School Family.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because I was like, what did you think about the Jello packs? So, yeah, it turns out that the guy who made Tatiana's containment, not made, rather, but who first recruited Tatiana into the organization and befriended her and gave her candy and stuff and was really nice to her, turns out he's, like, the actual leader of Under and has been intending to betray Union this entire time. And the reason for this is because Juice, or however you say her name, has been lying to everyone this entire time about certain aspects of how Ragnarok works. Because there's a thing called the Ark, which allows one person to survive the end of the world and go to the next one. And so she's done this multiple times in order to try and find more power and the right allies so that she can kill God. And she hasn't told anyone else about it because no one else could know about Ark because it's a one-person vessel, so she couldn't take them with her. And she has been
specifically repeating the same cycle over and over again, trying to recruit the strongest team of people she can. And we've seen in like various different versions, she has been recruiting the same people several times, but most times it ends up being her and Victor.
So Billy is the name of the guy that betrays them, and it's Billy. And so there's like two different organizations that are both opposing God, but one of them is bad guys. And
one of them specifically is not stated their goal is to get the power to kill God. We don't really know what Billy wants. Rip just wants to take the Ark so he can go back in time. We've been told Feng just wants to fight strong people. Creed just wants to be the ruler of a bunch of nations. Potentially, maybe they do want to kill God, but they ultimately, I guess you would look at them as like more of like the Magneto kind of group and all this. Like, they don't really consider themselves superior, but like they're just all very selfish shitheads, basically. And they only work together because their interests all kind of align.
That's kind of where we are. I mean, like, there haven't been too many big plot swings from that point other than, like, well, we found someone and they're currently, like, trying to take down these 4 big rules, which are named after the 4 seasons. And they've taken down one of them, which was a pretty long extended arc that featured a manga artist, which was very weird for a bit because there was an entire chapter about writing manga, and now you can be really good at it if you have cheating technology that lets you write 50 things at once and stuff.
I want to note that the same week that in this series they wrote a series called Undead Unluck to submit it. The same week me and Roboco had a chapter where they also wrote a series called Undead Unluck and submitted it.
It sounds like that sounds like they might have gotten together to play a joke. Like,
baby.
Also, it was a shoujo author, and apparently the shoujo author has been using that shoujo manga in order to actually explain to everyone what was going to happen because they could foresee everything, and so they wrote a shoujo romance manga about it.
It's kind of awesome, and at the same time, very sad. Yeah. They have a very sad backstory that really is. It's really one to enjoy and appreciate. I'll say this: the series I think has done a very good job making you care about the cast of characters in it. There's 11 members of Union so far. I guess technically 10 since Billy left. And
Hmm.
we're slowly starting to learn more and more about them. I think there's only one person who we don't at least know what their power like is called. But even that, like we haven't really seen a lot of like 4 different characters. But we've gotten a tease to kind of show that all of them have very sad backstories because God is
Yeah.
cruel in this universe. So like it's one of these things where the little touches do help to add a lot to this series, I feel. Um, when we first meet Tatiana, we don't really get much of an impression of her, and then in the arc she's in, you find out that she's made this connection with Fuko, which seems like it kind of comes out of nowhere. But if you actually like in my reread, I was like, oh, we see that she left a bunch of stuffed animals for Fuko back then, and you're like, oh, they actually are around the same age. Like this would be
Hmm.
probably a very charming thing for 2 people who have intentionally been pushing people away for the longest time, having somebody they feel like they have common ground with. And then you get the little intro of like, oh, Billy was like, oh, I'm just gonna she was like, oh, just kill me because I can't do anything, I can't even eat cake. And he's like, oh, I made these straw like cakes with very long vertical straws basically, and now you can eat them this way because you're like, if you just open your mouth and I'll push them in, your power won't blow them away or anything like that. It's like, what a sweet fucking thing. That's so
Yeah.
goddamn adorable.
The two of them bond, and like there's a very cute scene where Fuko is getting to know Tatiana, and they're like, they've got stuffed animals, they're bonding over them, and then with her robot shell thing, she holds Fuko's hand, and of course they're like explain to each other like that neither of them can touch another
Yes.
person without bad things happening, and so they're like, after we're through all this and we can't we have lost our negation abilities, then let's hold hands again regularly. It's like, oh, it's so cute. And Andy and Billy are listening to it from outside, so it's like Billy is kind of set up as like Tatiana's Andy kind of. um and then it turns out he's a big old traitor. But it's for kind of good reasons. It's he's not like, I will rule the world or whatever. He's like, no, I want to kill God, but I don't fucking trust you people
Yeah.
because you've been keeping secrets from me and all this stuff. So, and there's a whole thing between him and Juiz where they fight and stuff. And there's a really cool scene where Juiz's ability is justice, which unjustice, which means that anyone, what they really, really want to do, what they're dedicated to, she can make them act against it. And Billy has some sort of strange ability that we don't really know what it is exactly yet, but he can apparently copy any negation ability. And so she's like, "Why aren't you using justice on me?" And he does something which I won't explain everything about to knock her down. And he's like, "The reason I don't use unjustice on you is because you believe in me." And it's like, oh, it's so cool.
There's a lot of nice touches, and a lot of really cool things. I don't want to go on for a super
No, it's
long
really
time,
good.
um, just because we will be talking about Undead Unluck again later on
Yeah,
in
we're
this
gonna talk
episode.
about
We'll
it later.
recap it, but I will say it is definitely one of the series I enjoy the most. Now it's the same as any Jump series. Sometimes it's better than other weeks. I would say it's. I don't know if I honestly that might have been a contender for series of the year last year as well, though, just because of how much happened in it. But still, like I would say that if you're into like really creative battle series, this is definitely one of those that I really seem to like because it has this weird gimmick to it of the rules, but once you get into it, you're like, you know what? I can follow these rules, and it is pretty dope. So I don't know. I really really like it.
I don't. I'm not particularly drawn, actually, to Andy and Fuko themselves.
Mhm.
They're probably like my least two favorite characters, like in this series. But that's not like saying like, oh, they're such bad characters. It's just I'm so much less interested in them than anyone else. It's a series that has a wide cast, doesn't always focus very much on all of them, but when it does, it really does so very well, and I appreciate that. And I think that that is the thing about it, the series that really started pulling me into it was being introduced to these very different characters with very emotional motivations behind their actions, and being like, well, anyone can die in this series. I don't want them to die, please. Because that's a very real sense of danger that exists in this. Even though I think there haven't been a whole lot that's been happening lately, but because there's some early ones, it really feels like a possibility. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that I was wrong, guys. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Let's jump into the recap.
Right, with My Hero Academia, chapter number 311. Here we go. That's the chapter title, but also here we go. So some dude with machine gun arms is shooting, and Endeavor is hiding behind a column so that he doesn't get hit by the nail guns he's firing. And then he dashes in and beats him really quick. And then afterwards, he and Hawks and Best Genius are kind of picking up the pieces. And some protesters with signs that are like, "We don't need heroes" and stuff, are throwing stuff at them. They don't like them, and they're like, "If you had been bold, then things would be better," and stuff. Yes, it's more just like, okay, yeah, right, setting the scene. Heroes aren't welcome in society now because reason. We got that. Eventually, the three of them are driving off. And we get a bit of conversation between them, which is really just like mostly just repeating stuff that we already know, but it's kind of them talking things out as people who don't know the entire picture. The important thing that really gets brought up, or at least the important question that gets posed, is when they're talking about All for One and his plans to apparently steal One for All, and that's why he manipulated Shigaraki and all that stuff. Hawks brings up the point of, why does he need Shigaraki's rage in order to do this? And Best Genius is like, well, they said that a strong emotion is necessary. But Hawks brings up the point that All for One has been doing this whole thing for a really, really long time. Why doesn't he have strong emotions then necessary to do this? And Best Genius says, well, maybe he doesn't have enough hatred in order to pull this off. But Hawks says, maybe he has none at all. It's just the impression I get, but think about it. That guy never stops smiling, right? Yeah, it's because he's weird. But so they theorize that there's essentially something wrong with All for One that caused him to not have normal human emotions at this point. Which, if he's been alive for as long as he has and as powerful as he's been for as long as he has, then that makes sense. So, but after they're done talking, there is a beep that catches their attention. There's some sort of notification they get. We cut away, and All Might is driving in his car on his own, and he's tracking where Deku is as he's running around and helping people and stuff. And All Might thinks about how he's, not stopping the rest very much. And he flashes back to when Sir Night-Eye was warning him that, hey, he wasn't getting a whole lot of rest. So there you go. Then he sees that he has lost sight of Deku, but at that moment, a freaking grenade appears next to his window.
That's the sound he makes, I assume, yeah.
I
mean, he says, damn it.
All Might goes, a kid, I'm worried about him, is that her? And then, suddenly, Deku's communicator gets snatched out of his hand from on whatever rooftop that he's at. I think that's what happens.
It gets shot out of his hand.
And there is also a speaker in the bullet that shot into it. It's odd. So a voice comes through the speaker in the bullet that's in his phone, that's in the wall, that says, hey, you're coming with me. And Deku immediately is like, wait a minute, someone's here for me specifically. They're actually targeting me. This isn't just some regular villain. They're specifically targeting me. Here we go. Chapter title drop. And but he's excited, of course, because presumably this is the entire reason he's been running around and doing stuff, is so that he will draw the attention of someone with close ties to All for One. And it turns out the person who fired at him is I believe we did see this woman in the big prison escape.
Yeah, remember all the people were super horny for her?
I'm not surprised by that, but I don't remember that. And she's got a gun of muscles and bone essentially coming out of her elbow, which she's got folded up and pointing towards Deku, so she can somehow manipulate her body into firearms, which is cool. She's pointing it from a sniper position. There is a guy slumped in the corner next to her. We saw this guy too. And she warns Deku that if he comes quietly, he'll get to keep his limbs.
It's Overhaul, right?
Huh?
It's Overhaul, right?
Over there? Yeah, probably.
Okay.
These sleeves flapping around, so yeah. So, I mean, it's a really cool shot to end on. I do like the way that you can kind of immediately tell what's going on with her abilities if you just look at it, even without any explanation. It does kind of feel like that's the entire purpose of the chapter, is just to end on that moment.
Yeah, I mean,
like the first 8, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The first 10 pages of this chapter are just the stuff with Endeavor and Hawks and Best Jeanist. And when I was reading this the first time, I literally just
yeah, I'll be honest. I had to remember. I was like, what happened in My Hero this week? And I was like, I guess they have the sniper girl at the end, and that really does feel like the entire chapter, because you're just kind of like, the only thing you get is like, oh, we actually see a little bit of how the public is reacting to Endeavor, but otherwise it's just like a bunch of heroes talking about, like, I bet All For One is a bad guy. Like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know,
bad guy.
Like, I know you're talking a little bit more about his intricate kind of motivations and things like that, but for the most part, we've kind of gotten all this stuff, so I do at least appreciate we end on a cliffhanger that has me excited, because it'll be cool to see this and like, oh, what is Overhaul doing here, basically? Like, what does he want with Deku? You know, it should be interesting.
I blame you for my arms getting taken off. Deku's like, that happened?
When? Oh, don't you remember when Hulk Hogan was supposed to protect me and he just got killed? Well, that sounds
Hulk Hogan was here?
He was a Sandman. It's a whole thing.
No, the Sandman's a different guy. He was an ECW. Deku's just a huge wrestling nerd.
He's just a big nerd. He's just like, Deku, for the love of God, I need you to be a real man's man right now. And just like tell it to me straight. He's like, real man's man.
William Regal, he's in NXT now. He's doing great for himself. Listen
to me, Deku. We're at the pinnacle of an important conversation right here. Yeah,
no, I don't like the way that Jericho's fall was shot. It's, I don't want him to be hurt. It's just that they really should have chosen a different camera angle, so it looks so fake.
I was like, oh, is he gonna be like a really shitty ICW fan too, where he's just like, I'm all for history being made, but do two chicks have to really main event WrestleMania?
He just has all the worst wrestling opinions online. I don't really know. Like, why does it matter that they're black?
Oh, he's just John Bradshaw Layfield. It's not really black history being made. It's just history. And like Booker T looking at him like,
I didn't think there was anything wrong with Booker T losing to Triple H like that.
I thought it was cool that he pinned him after a pedigree and then like 15 seconds crawling over slowly.
No, it was the part about where he said like people like you. It's like, oh. You mean like people who grew up on the street? No!
People do the spinneroonie?
He's just like horribly naive. All right. Anyway.
Let's talk about Spy Family.
Spy Family is next. So this
no Kaiju number 8, I believe.
There is no Kaiju number 8 because it had a break at a really weird time. So it's the longest we've been without a chapter of that series ever in its entire run thus far, but we'll get some tomorrow actually. So this is a chapter that is all about your basically getting to know her protection target. We do get a bit of stuff at the beginning where Anya and Lloyd are kind of exploring what all commodities the yacht has, but when Anya comes across their suite, which has like bunk beds and is very small because it's on a ship and they're like third class, so it's not very extravagant, she immediately concludes, oh, this must be one of the ship's jail cells, that she tries to leave because And then when it turns out that this is actually their suite, she just hides under the desk and says, "And this concludes this episode of Anya's Big Adventure," because she's all upset and disappointed. It's cute. But the rest of the chapter, so Yor is introduced to quote unquote Shati, which is, not her real name, it's her cover name. And they're left on their own, so Yor can just protect her, and they're in private and stuff. The woman's real name is Olka, and when Yor mentions this, she's like, "Hey, don't say my name while we're here on the ship, please, because we're supposed to keep this a secret." She also has her son with her, who is very small and is like able to pronounce like syllables basically, and that's it. And she's trying to hold together because her husband's been killed, and eventually she decides that the kid needs to get some air, and she's upset because she wants to go outside even though it's not safe because they've been cooped up for the entire time since her husband was killed. Yor's nervous about letting them outside, but Olka convinced her, "You're my bodyguard, you'll protect us." And so Yor starts to lead them outside, and she's being paranoid and stuff. And Olka brings up, "You're going to really draw attention to us if you're acting all paranoid and stuff." And Yor says, "Well, yes, I am looking out for our enemies, but mostly I'm worried about running into my husband and daughter, and they'll find out what I do." And so that's kind of the issue at hand. We also see a little bit of Lloyd kind of looking around at everyone, realizing that, hey, there's a lot of important people on this ship. It could be a target of terrorism. He's trying to be on alert. But Anya points out, "You're not having fun, Papa." And Lloyd realizes that he was instructed to relax and take a vacation, essentially. So he's not doing a good job of that. And then, we see Yor and Olka wandering around, and getting a little bit of space. And Olka brings up, "You're really worried about your family, but if they're like your cover family, I don't really understand. Like, they're just to cover your identity, right?" And Yor says, "Yeah, I guess that's what they are." But she seems really, really sad when she says this because she doesn't really believe it anymore. So they go out. Olka gives Yor some casual clothes so that she's kind of in disguise too. And Olka's like, "Now we're just two mom friends hanging out." And yeah, they definitely do look like a couple of moms when dressed this way, yes. They go out and they're walking around and stuff. But when Yor sees Olka with her son, and he's just sneezing because he's cold and stuff, Yor promises that she's going to do a really good job to protect them. But as she says this, Olka tells Yor her son's name, which is Graham, the same as her father. And so Yor is really happy to meet the baby, and they're really happy. And they go back to Olka's room. But then it turns out that there was a listening device on one of the lawn chairs that they were sitting in, and there is a creepy guy in a dark room somewhere.
Oh, he's got to be creepy just because he's sitting in a dark room with nothing but soda and televisions around him, listening to 1,000 conversations without being invited. Oh, suddenly that's what makes people creepy.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, he's got a creepy mustache. So.
Oh, so suddenly mustaches are creepy.
Yes. So he's listening in on all of these conversations at once, and he happens to hear Graham. And when he hears that, he hones in on that conversation, and then he hears Yor saying, "Shati, take him back." And so he tracks the name Shati to her room, and so now he knows the room that the target is being held in.
I'd like to cut to like a couple of minutes earlier where he tuned into Graham, and it was just somebody like, "Yeah, like graham crackers are the worst part of the s'more. I could just get rid of it." And he was just like, "Damn it. I mean, I agree, but that's not what I'm here for." Like, he just keeps tuning into like different conversations.
Graham cracker is the only part of the s'more that I like.
Oh, sorry.
I don't like chocolate, and I don't like marshmallows.
That's fair.
But yeah. What if there's just like person's like, Gram's a weird word. Graham.
Hey, Graham, could you get me that towel? Like, sure thing there, grandson. Like, god damn it. How many goddamn Grahams?
I'm saying that it weighs not 1 gram or 2 grams. Maybe about... No, not 3 grams. Hold on.
I love Fallout 4. My favorite... Fallout 3, my favorite character was Graham, or New Vegas. One of the ones had a companion named Graham. Graham. I always think about Graham. Never which game they're from, but just about Graham. Graham. It's just him like, god damn it, go away from the fucking pool.
So this is a nice little chapter, getting us, Yor getting introduced to the person she's trying to protect. I do really like the reveal at the end because the way I explained it, it actually is drawn out over quite a bit of space, so it really builds up the tension as you get to that point. And also more character development for Yor because, she's, growing to see, the importance of, the parent-child thing going on, so...
I was thinking Fallout 76. Graham was the shopkeeper. That's
okay.
Look, there's people who are going to be like, "Who the fuck was they? Were they talking about?" And I was like, I guess there was one in New Vegas, but I was thinking Fallout 76. Sorry, it bothered me a lot. Who was Faust? No, what was the name of the? All right, hold on. Fallout 3.
Has the best talk show, Graham Norton. He just has his guest talk. It's really nice. And Graham is a great person. Everyone might call him Graham Norton, but I just like calling him Graham.
Hulk Hogan's originally just stole his entire gimmick from Billy Graham. Graham.
All right, Grandma.
Fox, that's who I was thinking. All right. Let's talk about World Trigger, Nick.
World Trigger chapter 207.
And we'll make it real quick. There's barely anything to talk about.
The away mission test part 5. The test actually begins
stunningly. I really thought we were going to be due for like another 3 weeks of just analyzing the draft. Although we do analyze the draft a little bit in this chapter.
This is actually a very interesting chapter. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of people would be bored out of their minds reading this, but I found it this is actually really cool. But and also I get the impression that I think that the away mission test may actually have started in the first one that was titled the away mission test, given the way that they talk about it in this chapter. Yeah. So, Osamu goes to meet up with his new team, and he's the last one to show up because everyone showed up early, basically. So they have to go and change into casual clothes, which are all really weird black shirts with weird logos on them, and Osamu's is a computer with a hand coming out of it. It's weird.
Yeah, I think I own that shirt.
Okay.
Old computer hand.
So they change into that. They do actually remark upon the weird designs on their shirts. And
this is where we're going to find out that this is some weird personality test. Because you took the computer with the hand, this says this about your character. Or because you took it, the toilets are going to explode on the second day or something like that. Something crazy.
You mentioned the toilets, but literally before you said that, I was going to say so I see that you tend to average 3.5 sheets per poop. Well... That will be a problem. We've got to be very careful with resources on this journey.
Can you imagine if the amount of toilet paper you got was connected to your triad? You're just like,
just be like, no!
Oh,
I've got to make sure to not eat very much fiber. So, they get their stuff and they head into the facility. It's very dark in there when they get inside, but there's a hand symbol on the wall, and Katori immediately turns to Osamu and is like, "You touch it." So Osamu touches it and turns the lights on, and then they start getting a voice coming over the intercom while the camera is watching them, and it starts to explain the rules to them. It says, "Okay, So the panel over there, you actually have to supply the facility with your Tryon to activate the lights and everything else. There's like a battery meter on, so you can keep track of that. The lights, the kitchen, and everything else will not function if you don't have Tryon going into it. And also, you will lose access to water. So they're very serious about this stuff. So don't let the facility run out of Tryon. Then there is now also activate your Tryon bodies, because this is, an endurance test. So be in your Tryon bodies for the entire thing. Now, I will explain the personal devices available to you. Note the laptops on the desk. So everything in it is powered by Tryon as well. They have to keep everything charged with their own Tryon. And that is literally the end of the explanation, pretty much. They say that there are also further rules on the provisional captain's laptop. And so the captain is tasked with explaining everything else to the team's members. And that's it. So we start going around to each of the different squads to see how they are reacting to this scenario. So some of them take some time to explain, hey, this is why I picked all of you. This was the logic I was going by. Some of them admit, I was just picking the best person I had available. I didn't really have a choice in the matter. So Utagawa, it gets along is with Yuma, and so he kind of gets along well with people. He says like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna be together for a while, but I figured that we would excel in mobility and long-term combat. So let's go check out the laptops. He communicates directly with Yuma with the Tryon communicator, so he's not speaking aloud, and says to him, hey, so the operator Shiki is awkward around boys, but she's got a little brother, so she might be, more open to a younger guy like you. So I'm going to entrust you to be able to actually communicate with her so she doesn't get too nervous around the rest of us.
Him and Kotaro, the one other guy from Kakizaki Squad, I believe, who's even younger than Yuma.
Oh, yeah, so he is. He's just taller because Yuma's so...
Yeah. Because he's such a shrimp. Remember when that was like the thing in anime for the longest time? Like, you know what is the drop dead most hysterical thing you could do? If you make your lead a little bit short.
Just a little bit, though. He's got to still be fuckable. So, tell me I'm wrong.
Gotta make sure that's...
Tell me I'm wrong. Attractive male lead. It helps to sell them off volume.
You're not wrong. I'd really like to see the pitch meeting where they're like, oh, it'd be like a funny thing if I make the main character kind of short. And then there's just one creepy dude in the corner who's like, but they're still fuckable, right? Like, I suppose.
Listen, they could be 4'0" for all I care, but give them a 6-pack.
Make them shirtless.
All the time. I mean, so I don't know if you've seen, but Jeff has been doing chapter by chapter reactions to Blue Box and Nine Balls Dragons Parade, and he made the note on Dragons Parade that yeah, I don't know. I think that the thing that's got to be holding the series back is there's not enough Fujoshi bait. And I'm like, damn it, he's right. None of these guys are hot enough to be shipped with each other.
That may be your opinion. I feel strongly in the other direction.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
So, OG Squad, OG just says yeah, I wanted to have people who could run and use swords, and we're fun. That's kind of it. They also talk a little bit hey, Tsuji doesn't do great around women, so go easy on him because I know the other two of you are ladies. And they're trying to be nice to Tsuji.
He says that like he gave him secret out. I know the two of you are women. Like he's dropping a bombshell.
Yeah, he's basically just prepping them, saying, hey, Tsuji, try and get along with everyone. Ladies, try and go easy on Tsuji. And they start to, have a little bit of banter. And then Ikoma looks right into the camera and it's like, me? Because he's the best. Kakizaki is talking with people, and they bring up that Inukai and Kageura don't really get along. Taichi is there, and his hat is still stupid. Kitazoe says that he didn't really have a chance to plan out his squad, but he was like, I wound up with Some and Tono, and I figured if we were all 16 years old, that would help.
What a stupid fucking god. I hope the idea is he's supposed to just fucking bomb it. Because, like, I love Kikuchiharu's there. It's just like, seriously? That we're all 16 years old is the fucking reason you picked us together?
And literally everyone else is like, yeah, let's do this. Kuruma's squad, Kuruma says essentially like, I need Yuba here to help me run a tight ship because, we're all positive people, but I need someone to make sure that we don't all just like party. Essentially is what he says. Kodera says that he wants to have a good battle phase, and he's like, everyone here is a top-notch team player. I know we're asking, and everyone's very humble and is getting along well. That's also the team that Kitora's on. Ninamiya says, I was really lucky in the first 2 rounds and got Azuma and Amatori, and then in round 3, I took Ema because, and it was like,
Shut the fuck up.
Because then we'd have 3 snipers like Arafune squad, which will benefit our operator.
I honestly think that was the reason why he did it. Like, Ninamiya does not seem like the guy who would give a single fuck about, like, I could be a good wingman to Emma. I'm sure he was just like, 3 snipers, it'll make it easier for the operator. You have love, you have feelings for another person? How fucking weak of you. And then he spits in your face.
The 2 options are equally good. Either that, or like months down the line, they're going to be heading into battle, and Ema and Chika like meaningfully hold hands for a few seconds, and Ninamiya turns to Osamu and he's like, "Yes, I was rooting for them."
He just turns and he's like, "Squee!" And then goes like that's his biggest like escape of enjoyment.
And then he goes out and is like, "None of you are worthy of being around me. Hands in pockets."
He's not even shooting at anything. He's not even shooting anything. He's just shooting the walls.
Listen, I'm too cool to ship those 14-year-olds with each other. Mizukami squad. Mizukami's like, well, I decided I'd have a bunch of smart people on my team. Hey, it's better than we're all 16.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
Fumika brings up, like, so are you, like, not confident about the battle phase? And Mizukami's like, I mean, I figured we'll do all right, but outside of battle is where we're really specialized. Then there is Murakami, and he's like, look, I just picked whoever was the best person available in any given chance. I didn't really put any thought into how we're going to work together. I'm putting all of our trust in Hiyami, our operator, and I figure she can do it. And then he gets all humble and is like, hey, if I'm coming up short, talk to me and I will do a better job. Then there's Wakamura, who is
I panicked.
Who, yes, panicked, and he's like, oh, yeah, so I just thought whoever was best in the moment. And then Yoshida's like, yeah, and I got picked last, so you didn't even have a choice with me. But Wakamura is like, well, yeah, but, I had really bad luck with that, but then I got to you and I was like, oh, well, not bad. Which is like the most backhanded, no, you're good, wording ever. And he's just like, listen, guys, I don't know why. I'm a captain. I think we're going to fuck up. Then we get to Suwa squad. And he's like, so I just kind of like went on instinct when putting this squad together. And I don't think that we've got a bad squad. And Katori's like, what the fuck? How dare you say you just chose me based on instinct? I'm obviously great. If you were going on instinct, you should have gone with Kitora, though.
And I agree firmly.
Yeah, well, hold down.
There's no possible reason they could possibly give to make it that you would pick Katori over Kitora.
Calm down there, Ninamiya. So, but the others bring up the point of like, hey, Mikomo doesn't have good Tryon levels. Neither does Kitora. So if you did go with her, then we would be in back condition for this. And Sua's like, hey, guys, there's no point overthinking this. The lottery was rigged.
I'm like, rigged? They're like, yeah. You didn't think the lottery was stupidly designed otherwise? If there wasn't some kind of logic behind it, we all just draw fucking straws.
And the explanation he gives is actually really clever because he's like, They could have gone with wooden sticks, right? But no, they used fucking Trion sticks, which reacted with our Trion signatures and gave us the number of the order. They rigged it so that it wouldn't be random. So Katori's like, well, why'd they do that? And Sua's like, well, I bet they rigged it so that people would end up on the same squad as the pokes they said that they hated. And immediately Katori turns to look at Osamu, and he's like, so, yes. Sua orders them all like, hey, let's check out the facilities. Let's check what food we're working with and water and all this stuff. Katori's like, should we look at the laptop? And Sua says, creature comforts first, which, I mean, yeah. So then we cut outside.
Oh my god. This chapter's so fucking much.
We're almost done. I swear, because the last bit will actually go kind of quickly. All the A-rank members are observing all of what people are up to. They're saying like, okay, some people are starting with the data, some people are starting with the food and boarding accommodations and stuff like that. Wakamura is looking through all of the orders and stuff, and he realizes, okay, so the orders come to my laptop. You guys only access what I put in the shared folder, so I'll share the Phase 1 rules. Everyone read up. And immediately, Hughes says, I can't read. And they actually give a whole explanation of like how Hughes can actually understand Japanese, even though he doesn't speak it, which it has to do with his horns basically act as a Trion body, which Trion bodies translate stuff. Wakamura explains that Osamu actually called him up beforehand so that they would be prepared for all this stuff. So Hughes kind of just notes, yeah, he tends to take the initiative like that. So Osamu, good leader, looking out for his crew.
Yeah.
And then immediately they think about Ikoma, who's just like, Ikoma would never think of doing something like that.
And it's like the notion of just shitting all over Ikoma for a moment.
So we got to Mizukami squad, and he like goes full on like Vietnam, cutting out, censoring a whole bunch of information before sharing with everyone else. Yep, delete that. Now I'll share the rest. And it's like, okay, you guys don't need to know. They don't need to know all that. And the people who are observing things are like, well, I guess that could potentially, help, with the lines of communication. And everyone's just kind of observing, and they make the point like, well, every squad's off to a so-so start, and Jean says, well, that's because there hasn't been anything to get a real measure of their strengths and weaknesses. Their teamwork will be tested once the squad starts taking the lead, which I have no idea how you can really do that when you're isolated like this, but I guess we'll find out next time.
Team 2's taking 6 shits. They're in the lead.
Oh, yeah, that's the real test. All right, everyone, come on. Eat these burritos. Go, go, go.
So this is the first World Trigger chapter we've gotten since a pretty long break from Ashihara, and it is still exactly at the same pace of Ash. We got a large chapter as opposed to 2 regular-sized chapters. But again, I do like that it was like not a moment was cut. It felt like to get us to a quicker point. It's just like, no, we're going to show every single fucking group and what their thought processes, even worthless groups like Kitazoe, who's just like, I picked all the 16-year-olds.
We're all of driving age.
We all were born in the same year. Actually, I was born a year later. My birthday's earlier.
Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see any December birthdays around here.
All right.
All right.
Let's talk, Nick, real quick about Eden Zero. Chapter 142, Shiki versus Shura. So, Nick, we're skipping right to the end of this arc. They're going to have the big bad, and the big hero are fighting. We start by seeing Eraser, who's erased a bunch of dudes. That's what his name is. And a little fucking video screen pops up to be like, hey, this big cute ship's coming in. Who's on that ship? But Goodwin. He's going to try to clear open a lane for everybody. And then we cut down to the battle going on in Nera 66. And Shura's like, it looks like your gravity is a little bit different than mine. So you alter your own gravity. That's your focus. But my focus is on manipulating another thing. And he pulls just a giant spaceship out of the ground. and then pulls essentially like, I don't know, engine cylinders out of it. I'm not entirely certain what they're supposed to be, but they're just big rods essentially, and throws them at Shiki. And they basically have, a bunch of fights over it. Shiki manages to stop one, even like it has a moment where Shora's like, oh my goodness. And then he starts taking that thing apart and shooting all the different pieces at Shiki, which is kind of a cool moment. And then they just have like a space fight for a little bit where they keep punching each other. I don't know why, but they also then have Shiki be like, hey, you could change your own gravity too. And Shora's like, yeah, I didn't say I couldn't. I just meant like you specialize on yourself. Mine's a bit more, whatever. Whatever. We see what the Eden Zero's up to. Basically, we're going to have the same team as last time. Chris, Clean, and Laguna go out in spaceships and fight, fighter pilot in the air dogfight, essentially. The same thing I believe they did in the last arc. And meanwhile, the rest of the team's going to go on the ground and try to stop the All Link from going off. They note, oh man, it's going to be hard without Shiki around. And Moskoi dresses up like Shiki and says, if Master Shiki is what you want, he's right here. Everyone's quiet. Pino's just like, I think he's cosplaying Master. He says, let's all be Moss friends.
I mean, that's actually a really good impression.
I mean, he nails it, yeah. And he got a fat joke in there, too. So
Mass.
Yeah.
Shiki. Yeah.
We cut back to the battle happening. Shiki gets a bunch of cables wrapped around him. He's like, oh, you're all tied up now. You can't use gravity ether anymore. But luckily, we just did a training arc about that. So Shiki does do a big attack, gravity center, and knocks everyone away. And Shora's like, wow, is this for real? I didn't think anybody could be that awesome.
And Shiki's just like, that's not my kink, sorry.
I'm not a woman, so I won't be tied up for a whole chapter. And Shora just says, hey, Shiki, be my friend. And the chapter ends with Shiki being like,
someone asked him.
It's such
the bad guy.
It's such a dumb ending to this stupid chapter. I like the joke that Shiki just wants friends and he's so blatantly straightforward about it works as a joke for the most part, and occasionally it works in a dramatic sense as a very cheesy way. But the idea that the end of this chapter is a gigantic moral dilemma because a bad guy asked him to be a friend is so patronizing. Like, it's just like, if Shiki actually is stumbled by this, then he's the biggest idiot in manga.
Imagine for a second if, like, a villain were fighting Deku in My Hero Academia. They're a really awful, sadistic villain. But then when it got to a point where Deku did something cool and impressive, they were like, hey, Deku, I've bought a lot of All Might merch. And Deku went, like, it's, like that, it's the same thing, It's like, oh, I use this for a joke, but it informs you about the character. It's like, oh no, a villain is doing it. So, yeah, it's, but I'm glad we had a very short chapter this week.
Exactly.
Get through it real quick. Candy Flurry, Chapter 3, Irie Senpai, the chapter that asked the question, can ice cream get you hot? To which our Discord chat said yes. So.
Wait, is our Discord chat horny, Nick?
What? No, I would never imply such a thing. So, I wrote these names down. Tsumugi and Misaki, yes, are hanging out in the classroom, and they're just kind of like, talking about shit. And then she asks Misaki, hey, how do you become a Reset agent? Because I want to join them. We cut over to Reset headquarters, and there is a guy with some kind of sideburns talking with a kind of short girl with glasses, and they're both in Reset agent uniforms. And they say, "We analyzed this analysis, confirmed it's a lollipop shard." It's like, you mean the fact that it's made out of lollipop? Cool. So they say, "Oh, the sweet teacher we've been looking for must be hiding in the city, but we can't let the public know about it. So find out who the perpetrator is." And the glasses girl's like, understood. I'll begin right away. And then the guy's like, by the way, why are you wearing mismatched socks? And Irie turns and looks at him and says, because that's my character quirk. So.
Nick, hold on. Can we stop? Because this joke has had me rolling on the floor. Nick, have you ever woken up and you're so tired you put on 2 different socks and then you had a stupidly impractical outfit that showed off all of your socks? So then someone commented on the fact that you have 2 different socks on. But, like, it's supposed to be a serious situation. We're talking about, like, a terrorist walking around town. But they stop you to be like, why are your socks mismatched?
So the joke with this character is that she has ice cream based powers. And so she has a cold personality. She's very detached and professional. But she also has some weird quirks. So she will make little mistakes, like forget that she's not supposed to use violence or her powers in public. And then she'll just be like, yes, I forgot, because she's cold and detached. And there is humor from the contrast between what she does and her general behavior. And you know what? I like the idea in concept. I like the idea that we'll toy around with the cool, cold, detached personality, but they're actually an idiot like everyone else. They just act all cool and detached, and there is, a juxtaposition between how they act versus the way that they do things. So that's an interesting idea. I didn't laugh at any of the jokes involving this character at all whatsoever.
It was so weird to me that somebody would be like, why are you wearing mismatched socks? Be like, I don't know, because our outfits are kind of stupid to begin with. Why do you give a fuck? Do you do my laundry? Do you care? Like, what?
So later on, Tsuki is hanging out with Misaki again. They're hanging out in a classroom, just because, I guess. And Misaki's like, why do you want to join the Reset? It's dangerous. And she says, well, I figured it'd be easiest way to figure out the real person who destroyed Tokyo. Good fucking point. I mean, yeah, I'll join the police organization. That way I'll use their, resources to find this person. Cool. All right. But then they're like, but if people find out who you are, then what do you think is going to happen? I will be responsible. And she's like, yeah, why would you be responsible, dumbass? But if they catch me, they'll be taking you in with me. Or like co-conspirators, I guess. That's what he meant. The guy who was sitting on her before shows up in the classroom, points at Misaki, is like, what? And then Irie shows up behind him and is like, I've been telling you to stop harassing the female students. And then she punches him right in the frickin' nose. And then he's like, hey, that Reset agent said you can't harm civilians. Doesn't that apply to you? And Irie just goes, that's right. And that's the joke. So she introduced herself as Reset Agent Irie and says that she's on a mission related to the incident that occurred yesterday. Sumiki is like, oh no, is she on to me? This one seems really competent. Oh, but she's got mismatched socks, so maybe she's not competent at all. But then she's like, were you there yesterday? And Sumiki's like, yeah, no. And Misaki's like, yes, she was. And Sumiki's like, why? And Irie's like, oh, well, I heard you were escorted out safely, so I wanted to confirm. I wanted to see if you were hiding anything from me. Because, just be really obvious about what you're trying to do. And then, oh no, she left her backpacks behind somewhere. So maybe she's not really competent. That's the joke. And we're going to keep on pointing it out every time it happens, because pointing out the joke makes it funnier. Yeah. So we're introduced to the concept of star agents. Misaki is only a 1-star agent. Irie is a 3-star agent who are much, much, much more powerful. And then while they're talking, Irie randomly comes up behind Misaki, and she gets the impression that they're love interests, that she decides to kind of root Misaki on in that. And then while she's walking away, Tsumugi's like, maybe I can hide the fact that I'm a Lollipop user from her. But then a truck comes barreling down the road, the brakes aren't working, and they're like, oh no, the truck is gonna hit someone. Irie says, don't worry, I'll take care of this. And she summons her ice cream powers and makes a whole bunch of ice cream, and there's little scoops here and there, and then stops the truck without hurting anybody.
Nick,
and
what are you talking about? It is an incredible scene where a truck is upended and there's like 3 scoops of ice cream along the road. And it's so visually creative and wonderful. I can't comprehend how much imagination went into all of this.
There's mushy snow and a few scoops here and there.
I should just be straight. I think this actually could have been a cool scene. It deserved like a full page spread or something because you really can't get a sense of anything from this one shot.
No, you really cannot. Like there should have been. This should have been art porn right here. That's the part where you're like, okay, here's the new character. Here's how awesome their power is, and it's just like a little bit of ice cream. Misaki bigs up Irei, saying that she is one of the aces said to be closest to being able to defeat the lollipop user, ice cream user Toka Irie. And then Tsumugi's like, wait a minute, aren't Reset agents only allowed to use their abilities against sweet users? And Irie goes, oh, that's right, because she forgot again. Okay.
I mean, it's also stupid if Sweets users can't use their powers to save someone from being murdered. Like, that feels like that should be allowed. It's ice cream. It'll melt. Like,
what if someone is on the street and they're being attacked by a guy with a knife and they're like, oh, Reset agent, help me. You're with law enforcement. There's someone who's trying to stab me and steal my belongings. Sorry, they're not a Sweets user. I can't use my abilities against them.
Well, can you use your giant fork weapon? No, I forgot it at home. That's my character quirk. Goodbye, citizen. Nick,
it's been 3 chapters.
3 chapters. Let's do it.
Yes. Can we not read this series anymore?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like that's fair.
That does sound fair to me because I don't care for this.
No.
But I don't have very strong feelings about it either way. It just kind of like, all right. And I'm disappointed because the first chapter did kind of draw me in. I like the idea of like, okay, here's this comedic take on a battle series that seems to, get how to like do like a serious action thing, but like make it so ridiculous that it's, that is like the comedy of it. But the longer we've kind of stuck with it, the less funny the entire thing seems to me. Almost as if there was one joke that was actually worthwhile, and that joke has worn out through repetition, and it's no longer fresh. And yeah, so that is where I'm at on this series. I just do not give a shit.
That's fair.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's actually over there, and I don't want to pick it up, so I guess it's not happening.
Okay. That's how the series makes you feel. You're just like, It's not even worth the tea.
It's all the way over there. I forgot to bring it over before we started recording today. So
what a fun character quirk.
So I will note this. I will still be talking about this because I want to note I have started up something new for our Patreon. It is a series that I'm going to be doing monthly called Monthly Other Recap, or MOR for more. And I am going to be talking about all the stuff that we don't talk about in the recap. So including Ayakashi Triangle, which just left our recap, and including this, which is also not staying in the recap. I'll talk about all those series basically on a monthly basis. So if you want to know what happens with Candy Flurry, now you can find out. The first episode is up on our Patreon. It's going to be available for Patrons of any level. So go check it out.
That's right. For all the hot, sexy content in Ayakashi Triangle, you have to become a premium member so you can find out how much Matsuri's hot mom is going to molest him. So,
yeah, that was pretty much what happened this week as well.
That's basically what happens. Damn it. Well, there we go. Lost the subscribers. My bad. So,
yeah.
All right. So that's Candy Flurry done. So we're going to move on then to the Elusive Samurai.
Yeah.
So, color
Very
pages.
Elusive. Yeah, Elusive Samurai's been doing gangbusters, so I think it's going to be sticking around for a while.
It seems like it is probably the big breakout of the group of 4 manga that came out at its time. So, yeah. We get a thing, that's just kind of like, it has nothing to do with the actual chapter. It's just sort of a reintroduction to, his name is Tokiyuki. and saying that the only thing that is known about him is that is how elusive he was and how he never fled from his destiny. And we get this boss 2-page color spread of him trying to face off against Takauji, who seems to just be casually ignoring and walking away from him. It looks very cool. So, Chapter 15, Takauji, 1333. So, we start getting an explanation about Takauji because there is some sort of power struggle that is taking place within the Emperor's government. Takauji represents the warriors. The other faction, however, is trying to oppose him still, including the shogun's son, Sei Taishogun. And so he immediately shoots up a bunch of Takauji's men and is trying to assassinate him. And he says, "This is where you're going to die." We're introduced to Moriyoshi Shino, who has done a lot of stuff within his emperor's empire, contributed to the emperor seizing power. But despite this, and despite the fact that he's drawing his sword, he's got his men with bows and arrows trying to kill Takauji. Takauji just says, "Why are you so determined to take my life?" And Moriyoshi says, "Well, someday you're going to betray the Mikado too, so I must dirty my hands for his sake." So a fight breaks out between the two groups. Moriyoshi cuts down a whole bunch of Takauji's men, and we get more stuff bigging him up, saying the Emperor has viewed him as a possible successor because of his many accomplishments and his prowess in combat. As he's cutting up a bunch of men, Ashikaga just observes that, he's got a bunch of wandering samurai and priests and rogues with him, so he's, drawn many people to his side. This really weird, ugly-looking guy says, "Let me handle this," but Takauji says, "No, I'm the one he wants. Talking one-on-one will resolve this misunderstanding." And so he starts approaching the Emperor's son's men, who try to attack him, and they're all dead. We don't even see him swing his sword. We just see him appear on the other side of them, and the after effect of his slash, and their heads flying up in the air in the background. It's pretty crazy. So he approaches Moriyoshi and says, "Well, calm yourself." And Moriyoshi just can't seem to take out Takauji. His other men show up and he's waving his sword, cutting them down very casually. Moriyoshi realizes just how powerful Takauji is in that moment. He tries to attack him from behind, and Takauji doesn't even turn to face him. He's bisecting a guy in front of him, and he's just, without looking, using his bare arm to deflect all of Moriyoshi's sword blows. And after he's taken out all the rest of Moriyoshi's men, he grabs the sword blade in his bare hand with his pinky finger and bows before him and says, "You must believe me. My loyalty to the Mikado is unwavering." And Moriyoshi realizes that no single warrior can defeat Takauji. "But I'm not alone. Someday, I and my supporters are sure to..." And then he hears a priest, coming, and people are rushing forward, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the prince has drawn his blade." And so they're all rushing in, and Moriyoshi beckons to them, "Assist me in the battle. Help me kill Takauji." But all the people immediately gather around Takauji instead. And they're like, "Are you okay? Are you all right? Did your big strong arms get scratched up?" And of course Takauji is fine. But Moriyoshi realizes, "Oh my god, all of my men have immediately betrayed me because this guy is just too darn likable. He's just so charismatic and fun to talk to."
He's just he has such big shoulders.
Yeah. We get a narration saying that 2 months after Moriyoshi Shino clashed with Takauji, he lost his position as Sei Taishogun, and Emperor Go-Daigo was more enamored of a warrior he had just met than of his own accomplished and talented son, who had shared both joy and sorrow with him. And Moriyoshi observes the scene before him as if Ashikaga is a tentacle monster with a harem.
And hey, who wouldn't want to be a part of that? Yum.
I mean, there's a bunch of guys that you would, I don't know. They seem very happy to be taken in by his tentacles. So, so Moriyoshi is just like, you can't allow him to be inside. Something inhuman rise within him. But of course, no one is listening to him, and he seems to be the only person who sees Takauji as he truly is. So Tokiyuki, asks questions about this, and Yorishige says that Takauji's military might prevents his assassination, and he is immensely popular. He unseated the Mikado's son. He is not the Ashikaga Takauji you once knew. And he asks of Tokiyuki, are you prepared to face so high-level an opponent as him? But before he can really think about that question, Ayako bursts in and says, can you come and get Genma to behave? He got drunk and he's causing a ruckus. He grabbed all the shrine maidens. He's threatened to pee on everyone. There's something censored waving around his body, and I'm not sure what it is. Is that his poop? What is that? So, Tokiyuki's got to go and deal with that whole thing. Before he leaves, though, he says to Yorishige, you gave me retainers and a way to fight and even confidence. They may not amount to much yet, but to me they are treasures. Takauji may be far above me, but I won't give up. I will continue gathering treasures to use against him. And Yorishige is pleased by this, and he thinks of them as the indomitable lion and the rabbit he hasn't even noticed yet. The lion does not...
Oh no, what does the lion not? The lion does not know. It looks like we are probably going to get disconnected from Nick, or it's just a really long lag spike. Oh. Are we there?
I mean, I can still hear you. I haven't gotten any interruption from receiving stuff from your end.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Wow. That was a long hiccup then.
All right. Well, okay, we're here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chapter closes on Tokiyuki and his retainers trying to subdue Genba, while Yorishige very poetically says, "The lion does not know he will someday fear the little rabbit." Okay. So.
And there's a lot of vomit going everywhere, or shit. Yeah. I'm hoping vomit, but.
Because there is some of it in his mouth. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think this is a cool chapter to kind of build up the main antagonist of all this and kind of give a little bit more into Takauji's character and just build up him as this crazy threat. I thought it was really effective for that. And also just like the guy being so fucking amicable. Like he's fighting off Mikado and just killing everybody, and then just gracefully grabs his sword and is just like, "Oh, you must believe me. My loyalty's unwavering towards you." And you're like, "Oh, what the fuck."
I don't trust this asshole at all whatsoever. Oh yeah, great chapter. It definitely felt like a chapter that, even if there's not the color page at the beginning, lets you know, like, yeah, we're in this for the long haul because we're bothering to take the time to build this up big time and move on to say, like, this is the long-term conflict. Keep that in mind, as opposed to we've got to be prepared to end the series at any given moment. So,
yep.
Speaking of which, so
speaking of series that aren't going to be hanging around for too long.
I Tell C, Chapter 14, Painting. So, Aoi has taken Sakon to go and see her friend, Mr. Wan, who liked cutting things in half at the end of the last chapter, and he explains in this one, I sure do like splitting things. No, I'm not going to give the actual character explanation for why he likes it. I'm just going to say that line.
I forgot he was even in this chapter. I legitimately forgot because I was thinking about the end of the chapter being the only part that was good, and I forgot they fucking met this dude and interacted with him because I don't recall. I guess he's gonna do something as a part of their plan, But otherwise, I just completely fucking forgot he existed after they left him.
He starts being weird towards Aoi based on the fact that she parts her hair in the middle, and Sakon starts, shouting at him and, trying to block his sword with part of the watermelon he cut open. And a bunch of his goons are like, no, he would never hurt big sis Aoi. And they start throwing him in the air as if they're celebrating with him. Apparently that's how they deal with, I don't know, it's weird. So Aoi makes goo eyes at them in order to get them to be nice, and it works immediately. Then she turns to Mr. Wan and she's like, hey, can I get a favor? And he says, I'm not really interested in this, and I'm not interested in catching Mar. And then I was like, look, my hair parts down the middle. And immediately Wan's like, eh. And but he says, well, I'm already used to that center part in your hair. I've become a bit split-thargic to it at this point. So instead, Aoi goes and is
like the dead silence there really kind of encapsulated how everyone felt.
So Aoi drags over Sakon and says, hey, Mr. Wan, this is Sakon, and Sa means left. And Wan is immediately like, Sakon, left? You mean he's a twin? Yes. So can I? Yeah, as long as you do. And they start whispering, and immediately Wan is really friendly to Sakon again, and he's like trying to share his popsicle with him and stuff. And I was like, "There's something I want you to prepare for us." And she has like a sheet of paper that she shows the both of them, and then that's just kind of it. We cut to almost a week later. They're watching stuff on TV. Sakon is reading a book titled Art. Okay.
Haven't you picked up the art book yet?
Yes, I have. It's a great read. So Sakon says, TV has been nonstop about Mar. I bet the ratings are better than those shoddy variety shows.
Yeah, fuck you, Saturday Night Live. Eat shit.
And this has got to be just like one of those really weird, I'm going to insert my opinion about different media into my series that happens occasionally in fiction. Just like, I'm just going to have a character just say how I feel about stuff. Variety shows suck.
Everyone likes Sakon. Don't believe what he says.
So, their boss, says, Sakon, can you not spend so much of our budget on dumbbells? It comes out of my pocket after all. Why do you let him spend the budget? Just let him spend his own paycheck. And Sakon says, I need to train my body as much as possible. And Akiraka is like, you only have 2 arms. You don't need 1 million dumbbells. So yes, that's the main problem with this. Yes. Anyway, Homura comes in. And Akiraka is immediately like, I ship you two. Bye. And so he heads out, and they start talking. And so they start talking about how the chief is angry at the I division. Whoop-de-doo. And Homura's like, hey, you've been working a lot recently. On what? So why don't you watch this instead and blow off some steam? And it's a training exercise DVD. And immediately Sakon starts watching it, and he's rooting on it like it's an actual like fictional TV show with the instructor Captain Billy as the hero, because working out is the only thing Sakon understands.
It's a pretty, that's a way to live life. Now, what's the name of the actual dude this is parodying? I forget his name.
I don't know.
Workout Billy Blank? Was that it?
I don't know.
Hold on, I'm gonna look. Yeah, it's like the dude who did like the Taibo stuff. Yeah, it's definitely Billy Blanks. Okay, never mind. I got it.
All right. Okay, that's the most interesting thing about this chapter, I guess. So
I'm actually surprised. I didn't know Billy Blanks Taibo had crossed over the barrier to Japan.
Yeah, sounds kind of contradictory when you think about it. Yeah. So Sakon was apparently looking up stuff on Garo Kaizuka. The bulk of the paintings that Mar steals are his from when he was active in the 2000s, which was a long time ago. But he doesn't have any leads because Sakon's a bad detective. And he says, not only has she appeared in the security cameras, she's shown her face and used one of her followers. It's all brazen. What is Mar trying to accomplish? Whatever the reason, I'm sure Miss Aoi will figure it all out. I'll just need to do whatever I can to help her. Because I'm worthless, but I lift weights, so...
I'm sure the next time I get into a fist fight with her, I'm definitely not going to get my shit pushed in immediately.
I passed a detective's exam, presumably, so, I guess I'm not very smart. Oh, yeah.
Man, if we cared more about the series at this point, I'd come up with a hilarious character for him. Just like, oh, he's like so dumb. He just like falls ass backwards and everything. But at this point, I'm just like, God, when is this going to end? I'm just at this, like, I've reached the point now where I'm like, all right, clearly the author's having a ton of fun with this, but it's reached a point where it's not actually goofy enough anymore. Like, we've gotten past the point of like the fucking mom professor or the mom commander or whatever and all that stuff being introduced. Now it's just like regular boring shit. I'm just like, aw, he used to be special.
So Homura has a flashback.
Who gives a fuck? Who gives a single fuck about this character's flashback?
She has a flashback to when she knew Ukon, and Ukon said, if anything ever happens to me, which it definitely will, take care of Sakon. And Homura said, what kind of talk is that, Ukon? Are you gonna die sometime? Clearly that'll never happen.
I love that we get like this 3-chapter flashback to explain why this character is even being added into the story at this point. Like, they were going to have a really important relationship with Sakon and Ukon, and we didn't have time for that, so...
And then she was like, okay, but use my title because I outrank you. Well, we're childhood friends, so it's fine. Just saying stuff about their relationship. You're a girl and I'm a boy, but we don't have romantic feelings for each other. But you've always felt that way for my brother.
Oh, boy.
Aoi appears, and she's very sleep-deprived because she's been working hard. She goes to take a nap behind the couch because she likes tight spaces, I guess. The next day, they are all on alert for Mar at the museum, waiting for her to appear to try and steal stuff. The I Division is there, and because Akiraka is part of the Housewife Gossips Club, he is knitting or crocheting. I can't really tell. I can't see if he's got needles or anything. Anyway, so they're there, and the chief is upset that they're there because I Division. He talks about how great their security system is because in order to get to the painting, you gotta press 3 remote controls simultaneously. He makes fun of Akiraga because of his hair. He's like, if you used your hair, you could probably press all 3 simultaneously. His wife is there, and she's like, I don't like you. I want to see Mar. Okay. Then there's like a countdown to when Mar's supposed to appear, and they're like, Phantom Thief Mar will pop up somewhere. And nothing happens. And the chief is like, oh, she must be scared of the First Division. And then the lights go out, and they immediately hear in their radio transmitters a woman's voice, because amazingly, she had a plan. And she says, let's play a game first. A hide and seek. Somewhere in the museum is a real beauty. Me, to be exact. Cool.
Oh.
So they're like, all right, everyone search the area. And then she's like, I wonder if that little lady is around somewhere. I'd love it if she were. By the way, the I Division, when they were there, Aoi wasn't with them, so we don't know where she is. So she says, if I beat someone beautiful, my beautiful deviation value will grow even higher.
Sure. It's a transitive property of beautiful. If you're beautiful and you beat someone beautiful, their beauty then transfers to you and you get even more beautiful. That's how it's always worked. So that's why boxers are the ugliest people on the planet.
Yes.
They keep punching the beauty out of each other and then there's nothing left to absorb into the next person.
First I was the beautiful Phantom Thief Mar. Then I was the adequate Phantom Thief Mar. Then Kid Mar. So, yeah, but I actually looked up deviation value to see if there was some sort of like way that made any sense. And the only thing I could find was standard deviation, which is a statistics terminology. And I couldn't think of a way that it made sense when applying it. So it sounds like utter nonsense to me. And ITLC is bad. Okay.
I will note the end panel is actually pretty cool. Like, I do actually like the way it's framed, where Mar is completely ignorant of the fact that Aoi is underneath the pipes there. I was like,
right.
That's kind of cool, but yeah, otherwise, very forgettable. Speaking of forgettable,
Magu-chan got a destruction.
I just wanted to be mean.
It's a battle chapter. What the hell? Chapter 42, Providence versus Fate. So there's some brief opening that happens. It's not really important. Uneris is gone to go and confront Muscar and fucking fight him. So they have a fight across the chapter, and Uneris takes on like a Super Saiyan form with like long black tendrils coming off her body, and she's using her abilities to try and attack Muscar. He uses fate-altering abilities so that nothing hits him, though. She throws rocks at him. She throws, the false Magu-chans at him, and she's basically just turned them into battle satellite drones that'll shoot lasers for her. And as Muscar is, escaping and getting away, and he eventually ducks into a warehouse, he concludes that she's trying to just exhaust his powers. And Uneris is like, well, I know you're not recovered enough to execute your powers in succession, so I'll whittle them down until your powers of fate are used up. This is a war of attrition. And that's just kind of it. So they talk about Magu and Ruru, and Uneris brings up how, because of Ruru, Magu is growing to understand humans. And she says that she's not going to allow Muscar to come between them because they're my OTP, which that's not what that means. That's not what that means. Unless it is what it means, in which case, what's wrong with you? He's like 1,000 years older than her. Stop. So, Muscar says, you otaku are all disgusting, which, hey, it's a joke because she's an otaku, so you make otaku jokes. But Muscar says, the reason I haven't been using my adjustment of fate consecutively was because I had to prepare. And a pipe in the ceiling above them suddenly randomly crumbles and lands right on top of Uneris in such a way that she's stuck within it. And the lightning bolt comes from the sky and fucking blasts her. And Muscar says, all the continued failures with these ridiculous farces of late, you underestimated my powers as the third pillar. And yeah, Uneris is pretty fucked up by, a freaking lightning bolt hitting her body directly. And Muscar says, as he reaches out and just grabs her with like an extending sleeve, that she seems to have the wrong idea. Destroying lowly humans is easy for me. It's only out of kindness that I don't. If you don't want to make matters worse, do not get in my way again. So Uneris says, well, I guess you have me beat, but at least tell me one thing. If you hate humans so much, then whose face is that? And then she is into goo when she runs away. So, and she shows up later. She's all beat up and is comedically bandaged and stuff. Whatever. Then immediately Ren is like, "You don't even walk down because she says I've actually fell down some stairs." And Ren says, "You don't walk downstairs. You float." And Eris is like, "Yeah, I guess not." And then she just takes the bandages off because she's fine. Because this was all just a show for her own sake. Because she's weird. And she does flat out admit to Izuma that she lost a battle to Muscar, and she, just underestimated him. He's upset that she didn't take him with her, but she concludes Muscar can't be defeated in battle. If we hope to fight against fate, those two, meaning Ruru and Magu, might really be the key.
It was an interesting chapter. It's very weird for Magu-chan to be serious. Like, it's one of those things that I'm almost just like, this doesn't make sense. And I know there were still some jokes and stuff like that in it. And I know we also got serious for a little bit when Muscar first got introduced. But, like, I've become so, like, accustomed to Muscar just being a goober. like everything happening just being a joke that it was, like, weird to be like, oh, I'm I need to take you seriously again.
You underestimated his powers as the third pillar, Chris.
Yeah. I think the part I like the most is just the tease of like, oh, then if you ate humans, then whose face is that? Because it does kind of answer something like, why is one of the Chaos Gods just looking like a young kid, basically?
Yeah.
So I like it for that aspect. And we'll see where things go from here.
It was definitely very different for a Magu-chan chapter, but there was some cool stuff in it. So
if this was meant to be a glimpse of like, hey, if we want to stick around for a while, maybe we have to have some things punch each other. Like, all right, there's worse ways to do it, I suppose.
Magu-chan box. All right.
Speaking of series that are going to be around for a while.
Nine Dragons Ball Parade, Chapter 12, Wind. So, rumors start circulating about Kokuryu's high school. They're one of the players of the team that Ayatsuji beat is like getting, harped on by one of his friends, and because of this, some people happen to overhear a conversation about Kokuryu's high school. Then we see a little bit of practice from the few members of the Kokuryu's team. Karine is trying to conduct fielding practice for them by trying to hit a ball towards them, and she completely whiffs and falls on her ass the first time she tries to do this.
She likes like managing baseball. She's never played it in her life.
So
because Nick, here's the thing: girls can't play baseball. Just a fact. It's just a rule in the universe.
They play softball.
Yeah. Which is fundamentally different. She definitely couldn't have understood how to toss a ball into the air and then hit it with a baseball bat.
I actually knew somebody who she told me that she would play baseball when she was a kid, but then when she got into like high school, she couldn't play it anymore. And she also couldn't play softball because she was a pitcher, and the pitching motion is, completely entirely different. She, couldn't just pitch underhand. So kind of sucks. So
I can understand that.
So then they have a meeting after practice. Karine is really tired because she was conducting fielding practice and was bad at it. And Azu says, "We don't have time to be tired." There's always time to be tired, dude.
No, we don't have time to be tired. We don't have time to rest right now, guys. It's really pressing. We get as much done as quickly as possible.
So he says, "All right. What players do we need?" And immediately Tsubaki's like, "Players who will worship me." That's not helpful. But he says, "Okay, if you guys don't have any specific targets, I have one. So the second place school of the Tokyo Regional Championships, Futaba West Junior High." And immediately Tsurugi's like, "Oh, they're a one-man team, right? They rely on their power cleanup hitter, the RBI king Daiki Higuruma. And also, he is an ace pitcher. And according to Azu, has an ERA below 2, which is ridiculous." So Korean says, "But can we actually get someone like him?" And Azu says, "Well, actually." But then we cut away to meet Higuruma, who has real main character energy, I guess is the easiest way of putting it. He's got, very bright hair, and he's like, "Hey guys," and so he's the captain of their baseball team. He says he's been recruited by, a really good high school team. And his friend, the vice captain, Shuhei Kido, congratulates him. He's a much more normal-looking guy. And, they have a big congratulatory, "Hey, thanks for helping me out this whole time." And Higuruma says to Kido, "Let's meet at Koshi and have a captain versus vice captain match." Aw. But then he goes outside and he's just casually handling his business. He's part of the school beautification committee. So he's going and watering flowers and stuff. And he's just, it's like, "I'll never make it to Koshian." But, it felt good when, people would say, "Oh, we owe Vice Captain Kido a lot. And one day when Higuro makes it to the Koshian, I'll be proud of how he made it." And that's it. That's the kind of life that's suitable for me. And then Azakita shows up and says, "Hey, we're here to see you. We've got visitor passes." And Korean is there along with the rest of the team. And Korean says, "We want you to join Kokuryu's high school's baseball team. We're here to recruit you." And immediately, Kito's like, "Oh, wait, you mean Higuruma, right? You want him for the team because he's already been recruited." So, and Azakita's like, "No." And we cut to the rest of the conversation they had before, and he explained, "I don't want to recruit Higuruma. I want to recruit their vice captain Kido because he's really solid at every facet of the game. And Tsubaki's like, well, he sounds really ordinary. It's like, I mean, having a really good all-rounder is good, though. But he explains he's actually got two strengths that are way beyond even Higuruma's. He's really good at pitches, he's really good at, analyzing pitches. He's not very good at hitting, but he's great at getting on base. He gets walked a lot, basically. He's the supporting character behind Higuruma's incredible RBI record. He would always get on base, therefore Higuruma had a lot of RBIs. So, and second, he's got great leadership skills. And apparently, he was just watching from a really good vantage point at one of their games where Higuruma was trying to, give a big pep talk to his team. It was just like, focus and stuff. And Kido actually gave a good speech. And it was like, hey, let's play good defense and rely on our awesome captain to get us to nationals. Awesome, cool. And they did a really good job. So based on all that, they did really well. Yes, Higuruma was the ace of their team. Kido doesn't have the most eye-catching skills, but his strengths supported Higuruma and the entire team. So he was just as important a player, and that's the kind of guy that we need. So they refer to him as a hidden gem. So cool. So they recruit him, and Tsubaki is like, you will be the rootstock that supports my flower. And immediately they're like, stop being rude, you fucking come over here, come over here. But Azukita says, yeah, we're here for you, Kido. You have the skills we need. So will you do us the honor of joining us? Any beautiful flower needs strong roots to bloom. And Kido is like, roots? I never thought about it like that. I'd always thought anyone can do the things I can do.
I never thought my hobbies would be symbolic of the thing that I do, but now that I've been told it is very thematically fitting that I am also in the beautification committee. Because it would be stupid if you had said that and I was fucking like playing basketball or something like if I was painting like pictures or something. Wouldn't make sense at all.
Will you be the flowers that create the paint?
Every good picture needs a pigment ball person.
Will you
play baseball for us?
Will you be the steady hand that paints our masterpiece?
Will you
Damn,
be
that was really good too.
the debate clause to our counter argument thing? Play baseball, please.
Oh, God. So he thinks, maybe I was wrong. I kind of thought that hot new baseball team that we were hearing about, there's no way they'll be interested in me, but I guess they are. So maybe I was wrong about myself. And maybe I don't just have to watch you go on to glory. Maybe I can actually meet you there. And so he's like, maybe I can do it. And he says, if we do this, we're going for Koshien. Kido's been recruited. Hooray! He's their first baseman. Awesome. We get a little bit more shots of the team practicing together. Kido's good at fielding. Korean's like, all right, good job. I was trying to hit a fly ball there, but I won't bring that up. Good job. We haven't had so. And for a while, things are good. And then we meet a new character. He's got a headband and a very tight shirt, and he is there to see Tsurugi, declaring himself Taiga Torimoto, your lifelong rival. I'ma join this team too. And there's someone who looks like they're wearing some sort of suit behind him as well. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah, so those two characters and then the character who joined in this chapter are the three characters we were teased with last chapter as being like news of this team is spreading. So these are, presumably, three more characters to join the group. One obviously already did. And then they'll just need one last person, I believe. Or two more. So, look. Let's not beat around the bush. Things aren't looking so hot for Nine Balls Dragon Parade right now. Nine Dragons Ball Parade. You know what? I'm not even going to bother learning the name because it's probably not sticking around. It's doing particularly bad in the rankings.
Unfortunately.
The likelihood that there's going to be 3 series leaving the magazine the next time there's new series coming in is relatively high. And as of right now, it looks like the 3 going are probably going to be ITLC, Horror, Boiled Cop, and Dolphin, and then this. Maybe it won't. Nothing's definite as of right now. Maybe a miracle will happen. But it does seem like this is the likely scenario. I will say that if that's the case, the series does not seem to notice that because it feels like it's going at the exact pace it was going to. I do not expect that we were going to get 4 chapters essentially getting every character into the group because that would have taken like 30 chapters total to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that we're kind of bridging it down a little bit, being like, hey, okay, let's get this guy in here. And they devote essentially this entire chapter to this character who has very little, like, is an important character, but is very clearly like, hey, you know, you can't make 9 cool character designs with this group. Got to have a couple normies in there. You know, I think it's cool that it still feels like the series is just going to go at its own pace. Because, I mean, like, look, if this series ends at 7 chapters, they're not even going to be in the fucking middle of a game, it feels like. It feels like they're going to be like, we got the whole team together, and then it's going to be a shot of them looking out into the ocean and being like, we made it, guys. and then they just take the last panel, the last 2-page spread from last Sayuki, which is them, like, hitting a ball with a baseball. Like, they don't just copy it, they just take the same shot. And that's just how every series we like ends, is just a 2-page spread of a baseball being hit.
Well, I'm glad we got to meet our Ichimaru before we got to that point, though. So
yeah, I kind of like this character's gimmick. It's
nice.
I think he has a little bit too bland of a character design, or rather, no one in the group has a distinct enough design at this point. I feel like to really carry things.
Yeah, it would be more impactful if everyone else had a much more distinct character design, and he was just the plainest looking dude ever, by comparison to them. So. All right, Dr. Stone.
Time to get stoned, Nick.
Z equals 195, Treasure Hunter, all alone. Suika is still on her own in this chapter. She is gathering up people's statues and bringing them together. She is, trying to just keep everyone together so that, you know, they're all in a group when they've been scattered around. But more importantly, she's hoping that one of them has revival fluid so that she'll be able to bring them back. And she's starting to get really upset and sad and lonely because she's starting to like talk for them and hold conversations with them. Yeah, that makes me sad. As she's dragging Ginro, because of course it's Ginro, his arm snaps off, which is not great. So she's like, oh no. This erodes, it won't stick back on right. Okay, well maybe Senku has some sticky stuff, and she starts hunting through his mini packs and stuff, and she finds that he's got some paper, but as she hunts through all of his sacks, she finds some sort of paste and reaffixes Ginro's arm to get him all repaired. Then she goes over to where Kohaku and Tsubasa and Hyoga, that was it, were, you know, gunned down. And they're like, okay, well, they might have broken pieces here and there, too, so I've got to gather them all up quickly, too. And there's a very sad little moment where she hugs Kohaku's statue. Makes me sad. She hauls them out, and she's like, oh, man, I wish that I had like a motorcycle so that I could actually carry everyone a lot more easily. But that thought does give her the idea to go and gather some supplies and use some of the tires that they still have and make herself a little wagon so that she can haul stuff more easily. And again, she's talking for people and holding conversation with them, and she's very sad. And she's like, no one's actually talking. Suika's all alone. Aww. So the last ones that she has left to find are Luna and Chelsea. And so she realizes, okay, so they must have been the backup revivers. So they would have gone the opposite direction from where I was with Francois. So she goes out to try and find stuff. We see a little bit of her fishing so that she will have supplies and stuff. She has this cool little panel where she's like, the Suika Exploration Squad is ready to set off because she's got a tire full of cooked fish, which is a sentence.
I bet it smells great.
I'm sure. And you know, she's trying to keep her spirits up as she goes along. She's like, okay, well, if they were revivers, then they should have some revival fluid. So they're my last hope. And so she heads off, and she's wandering around, and eventually she comes across the remains of the bottle that Luna threw up to try and have it come down on them. And because of that, she's able to find them up on the cliff from above where it fell. But she looks through there. She realizes, oh, if you guys tossed that, that's the only revival fluid. But she does conclude, I wouldn't have found them if they hadn't tossed it, though. So, she also starts looking through their belongings to hopefully find some more revival fluid. She doesn't find any. She also finds that Chelsea has made some sort of a map, but that's just kind of it. And so Suika is just kind of left by herself, and she's like, I found everyone's statues, but nobody had any revival fluid. That's it. I'm going to be all alone until the day I die. And she has this very sad but very resigned look on her face, almost as if it's like a relief that, hey, I tried, but it's all over now. So Suika says Suika thought that Suika would cry if there was no fluid after all. But no tears. Suika's growing up. Can't be a crybaby anymore. And she brings everyone's statues back together and lines them all up together. They're all gathered around her. And she's like, okay, well, Suika can eat and get some energy, maybe explore. And then she thinks about that. And she's thinking about exploring makes her think about Chelsea. And she pulls out the map that Chelsea had made, and there's this little diagrams on where to find different things, including fruits. And Suika follows the map, and she finds some fruit, and she's like, oh, you guys are still trying to teach Suika stuff. And over the course of time, those lessons pass down from person to person, like by writing things on paper. And wait a minute, Senku had paper. And she pulls out the paper she took from him, and it's the way to make revival fluid. He wrote it all down with instructions. And Suika realizes when humans need things, they start with nothing. And Suika's a human. We'll meet again. Suika knows it. Starting with nothing, Suika's gonna do some science. And she's crying again because now she has hope. And yeah, that's the chapter. I didn't cry. Shut up.
I honestly, I don't know why it's such a petty thing, but I was like, maybe if you stop fucking referring to yourself as a third goddamn person, I'd be more fucking. Maybe if Suika stopped calling herself Suika every 5 fucking seconds, I'd be more invested in Suika's goddamn journey. I honestly, I just don't know. I kind of right now I'm just curious where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that's like, God, I hope there's not actually a time skip. I've heard people throw it out there. I mean, we already have had a 2-year time skip. It's just everyone was frozen in it. But the idea of I think I'd be okay if it's like a year or so. But like, there's a part of me that's terrified that we're gonna get like 10-year time skip. And
so you're just going like, don't make Suika sexy. Don't
it really is. I'm like, I'm terrified of what might happen, basically. So, but it's fine.
We'll see.
Sweet little story.
She has the instructions, so hopefully it won't take her that long.
Yeah, hopefully there's still equipment actually available, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, this was I really like the little. This has been a nice, very intimate little journey that Suika's had to go on. I did not expect that we were going to be getting this, a few months ago. So,
all right. Let's jump over and talk about Mashle, Magic and Muscles, Chapter 61, Mash, Burn Dead, and a Sonic Chase. So last time...
Sonic Chase!
Yeah. So last time, Mash clotheslined Margaret, and everyone's like, oh, shit. Like, do you think that did it? And Lance is the only one who's like, I don't know about that. Marcaron still has a secondeth. It's fair to say things could get worse. And as if on cue, Margaret gets up and is like, all right. You're a worthy opponent, so I will use my secondeth. Sound secondeth death gong. And Mash is like, what is this? And the guy explains, okay, so remember before where we had wands that turned into Bankai? Yeah, we're just Bleach now. Here's like a puzzle you need to solve, basically. It's the death knell, a giant bell in, what is it, a minute, I think it is. In 1 minute, it'll ring out. And anyone in a 2 kilometer wide area will be knocked out by it. And the only way to stop it is by stealing the wand. but I move at the speed of sound. So you have to catch me before that minute is up or you're going to lose. So it's a way to kind of place like a dramatic thing in there. It's kind of weird because the second has been built up for a very long time, and then it comes out. It's like, because they were like, oh, wow, who knows what would have happened in that fight with Rain if Margaret had used her second. It's like, if they had used the second that just fucking makes a bell that says in a minute it'll go off and knock you out, because it looks like Rain kind of...
I'll make another sword now.
I was going to say, it felt like Rain had that thing kind of handled otherwise. So immediately Margaret starts zipping around the arena. Mash is chasing after him and just can't. He's too fast. They're like, you're losing time. Only 30 seconds left. 25, 15. So Mash just grabs a gigantic chunk of the ground and flips it up, and then dashes underneath it, is basically created so there's no other way to go. Blocked off his escape. So the only way that Margaret can go is left or right. And he's like, he's used his reflexes, but he can't rely on them to catch me. He's gambled on me going right. How unfortunate. A feint, a body feint, basically like, Mash used his sports training to
his devilback ghost.
Exactly, yeah. And Margaret's like, the fool, I've got just enough distance on him. He can't possibly catch me. But Mash managed to get his pinky finger around Margaret's jacket.
Wait a minute. He used the devilback ghost, and then he does the one finger trident tackle. Hold on.
Yeah, it's a great series.
Obviously, it's an Actual 21 reference. It's a great series.
Yeah. And manages to toss Margaret down to the ground with just the strength of his one finger. Then he grabs Margaret's wand and snaps it, stopping the death deal before it goes off. And everyone's like, oh, wow, the Sonic chase has come to an end. And Mash has won. Margaret is defeated.
Yeah.
Margaret just says, all that without any magic. I'm smitten. I accept defeat. But then the sky cracks and a hand emerges through, and it's Innocent Zero and Cell War. Bum, bum, bum. And I really wanted the chapter to end with Mash being like, should have let that bell gone off. Because it would have been real convenient if they showed up and then gong, and then they both go down.
Nap time.
That would have been fucking great. This is the fine chapter. It's not as good as many of like the big defeats Mash usually does or anything like that, but it was still okay.
Yeah, because it was saving the big final moment for the arrival of Innocent Zero as opposed to Mash's victory. So, But it was nice that we did get to see the actual conclusion of their fight as opposed to leaving it open-ended.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we're also going to continue on now to Undead Unluck. This is chapter 62, Undead and Untruth. So we opened the chapter where Andy is thanking Shen. And he's like, why? And, I should explain this. So there's the thing. So, Nick, what's the name of the character that Andy turns into when you take the card out of his head?
So I think of him as Victor, but Shen always calls him Victor.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
So apparently it's kind of like from what I understand, it's sort of like both. Basically, anyone within Union calls him Victor. And I've never gotten, like, part of it's supposedly like a translation thing, but I guess part of it is also maybe it's a Thor reference to connect him to the Ragnarok side of things. I just want to note that. I know there's a better explanation out there, and I'm sure if you go to our Discord, people can link you to it. I don't remember all of it off the top of my head, but yeah, they are the same character. I kept thinking it was like, is this a mistranslation or are they changing the character's name? It's not that. Different characters will refer to him as different things, basically. Some kind of, I guess, treat him with a bit more reverence.
All right.
So basically, Andy's like, hey, thanks for protecting Fuko during all of that. And Shen's like, I kind of released Victor just because I wanted to fight him, right? It's kind of a selfish thing I did. He's like, yeah, but you did it. You still protected Fuko, and you're the one who recommended us to Juiz. So, the reason she's still alive is thanks to you, and I always wanted to thank you for that. Shen's like, the only reason I want to beat people who are strong is because there's someone I want to kill, and I'll do anything to make that happen. So I sacrificed Void and Miss Gina, two of our own, because I wanted to fight the fabled god of war house within you to become even stronger. And I believe that is actually the only time Void has really been brought up in like 30 chapters. And Andy's just like, look, your reasons don't matter. What does matter is that we made it out. You protected both of us. So I owe you one. If anything happens to you down the road, you can rest assured I'll be there to help. And that's where we're at right now, as Shen and Andy are fighting together against Fang. And not doing super hot.
No.
They're having a rough time. Also, Fang is definitely a negator, and we don't know what he negates yet. He has not needed to release it. He's just been whooping with straight martial arts at this point. Shen keeps going at him and is fighting really, really hard, basically. And he's like, you're not going to be able to do this on your own. And Shen's like, no, I have to. This is my fight. And he uses
he has the big dramatic, no, I must fight him.
Yeah.
Separates the two of them, steps forward.
Yeah, and he uses untruth to actually keep them from moving to stop him. But then he turns around and all three of them immediately run up and grab him or punch him in the head, depending on which character they are. And they're like, hey, stupid. What's the most important thing to do right now? And he's like, to kill him. No, idiot. It's to protect Mui, right? So like you can get revenge, but it's not going to bring back your sister. So protect what you hold dear to you now. With your fists, you could do it. With all of us, though, we can protect anything.
This actually made me tear up when I read it.
Oh, really?
I swear to God. Look, I really like Mui, okay? She's very nice, and I love that when we were first introduced to her, it was established that her greatest dream is just to join the council so that she can help Shen. And they just have a really nice little relationship. And they have a whole thing where when the languages were united, Shen tried to speak Chinese to her, and she didn't understand, and it made him sad because that was a thing that they had, and like that little part of their bond was gone. It was just a really nice little understated thing. And it's like, I swear to God, if Mui is sad at the end of this, I'm going to be sad too. So,
well, Nick, it doesn't bode well for the end of this chapter.
I know. I'm like, don't you let this happen.
So they have Fuko take care of Mui. And then Andy and Shen are going to have to work together. And they're like, yeah, it doesn't really work. Nothing I've done has really done anything. So that's why I need you. So let's use Undead and Untruth on them together. And basically the two of them are kind of teaming up and are able to kind of manipulate using Undead and Untruth at the same time to kind of create these very curious feints. And their teamwork is actually working. Andy manages to get a really solid hit on a Fang. And Fang basically is like, all right, now it's time for you guys to despair, and reach even greater heights. And he grabs his little staff that he's been using. He says, die, little girls, for my quest for ultimate strength. And, activates it. This big, fiery dragon kind of covers the entire staff. And then he basically just launches it like a fucking missile. And it shoots straight towards them. It's going to just engulf Fuko and Mui. And then Andy steps in front and blocks a lot of the attack, but then Shen covers the other side and the staff goes through Andy. Who cares? He's undead. But it's also now sticking straight through Shen's chest as well. And Shen just says, it's true. It's amazing, Mr. Andy. Together, we can really protect anything.
And Mui's crying because she thinks that Shen's going to die now, which it seems like he might, yeah. Main character shields are a thing, and Shen's the third longest running character in this series. But characters can die in Undead Unluck. It has happened, so I won't be too shocked if he drops dead. So.
Well, I'll say they did kind of establish, I think one of the previous things was one of the rewards was like an afterlife or ghosts or something like that. So the idea that maybe a character could die here is not unthinkable, and they could still be a presence in the story or even come back. Who knows? It's a very cool moment. It's definitely something where I'm like, shit, they're really building Fang up as something ridiculous if he's able to do this much damage. And again, still has not revealed what he can negate. So
maybe he does. Well, no, he has to be.
He has to because he can still speak in Chinese.
He's aware of things. Yeah.
So he's definitely a negator of some kind. And based off his name Fang, my first thought is undefendable, or I don't know, something like that. But I'm sure it's probably something more translated. Unhope, people are saying. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. Some
talking about despair, so
yeah, some of the names are translations in other languages as well. Like Tatiana apparently is like a 3-layer pun because it's like from Russian to Japanese into English, basically.
I don't know.
So yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but pretty cool chapter, I think.
Yeah. Effective drama building. I really love the moment where the three of them grab onto Shen and are like, "No, stop being an idiot." So it was good stuff.
Yeah. And then let's talk about Black Clover page 292, Knowing. So we start with the flashback of Magna basically begging Zora to teach him all of his stuff, because he's like, how do I fight like you? You're a peasant like me, but you're able to do these really incredible things. Please teach me. I know you could fight. And I'm getting even further away from luck at this point. I can't drag the Black Bulls down. And Magna or Zora even thinks like, a peasant with flame magic who's a magic knight, huh? It's all coming back. It's all cyclical, Nick. So he's like, all right, I don't want to watch you grovel. I'll teach you just to kind of get you to go away, basically. And he also thinks to himself, we might have a better shot at discovering something new together anyway. So he goes and basically shows him all the work he's doing on arrays. And he's like, yeah, I've been looking for my ultimate self too for ages. You called it. I do use that mana method thing. But, in the Heart Kingdom, they use it to kind of put it together on the spot. To use that style, you need a ton of magic, good instincts, and fast reflexes. I'm a peasant. I ain't got any of that stuff. So I need to put arrays together slowly beforehand. And that's especially true for powerful spells like that one-shot. So we have to use that advantage. The runes we make with our puny magic are so puny they just stick around. So that means we could take a ton of time and build super complicated arrays in advance. And then the art here gets a little bit rough because Tabata has been in bad health for a while, and I really hope that once this arc ends, Tabata could just take like a couple months and just rest or something like that. He says, to do that, though, we have to know more about mana and ourselves, and what that takes is studying and slow, boring drudge work. So do you think you could do it? So basically, we just get like a little, not even like a montage, it's like a panel that shows a montage between them before eventually Magna's like, hey, what about this array? And he's like, wow, that actually might work. Which brings us to the present, where Magna has developed this thing that splits the two of their souls in half and links it up. And he says, I just linked us up and split our magic equally, the soul chain deathmatch. Let me give you a heads up, that chain is our soul, so if you yank it out or break it, you'll go insane. Which is pretty awesome.
Well, all right then.
And he basically just punches Dante right in the stomach. And Dante's like, what the fuck? He still can use his gravity magic. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna punch you a couple times. But he's like, hey, didn't you say I could attack you as much as I wanted? And Dante's like, fuck you. But Dante still has his regenerative magic. So he's like, look, as long as I have that, you're never going to be able to beat me. So get down your knees and regret that you ever got above yourself and defied me. And we just get Zora watching on, saying, even if you put it on your knees, you struggle to continue to fight. You kept the smoldering fire burning and kept preparing right up until today. It doesn't matter if your opponent's the enemy boss or a devil host or a mortal. Win this, Magna. And the final shot of the chapter is Magma just punching Dante to the ground with a big old punch.
Yeah. There's some cool stuff in this chapter. I do like that final shot of Magna just punching Dante into the ground. It's a really cool dynamic shot. I also like a few of the lines here and there throughout the chapter. Like, Magna's like, hey, Zora, my man. And Zora's like, who is your man? Fuck off. Yeah. But my absolute favorite is when the great hero, Jack the Ripper, says, there's no way a peasant like Magna could use a spell like that. And Zora just says, yeah, but he did, though.
Fuck you.
So, I mean, seeing the stuff that Magna actually went through in order to do this is nice. He says also that it's a one-time spell that's mine alone, which means maybe he'll never be able to use this soul chain thing ever again. But hey, it's like an important fight to have.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it also, I guess, is just a way to be like, hey, there's a super powerful opponent. Why doesn't Magna soul chain them and then just
exactly,
whatever.
But yeah, it was a pretty okay chapter.
There you go.
Let's talk about One Piece, chapter 1012, Itch. So, we start things off with a little conversation between Izo and Kiku. Izo brings up, hey, Kiku, how's your arm doing? Because it's still been cut off. And Kiku's like, it is merely an itch until my life is expended. No worse than the itch this one felt in the heart on the day you left for good. We get a little flashback of Kiku crying for her brother. So, there you go. Getting your arm cut off hurts. There you go. So, they have little conversations about what they hope to do, like after the country is opened and what they're going to do afterwards. And they're like, hey, let's talk about that if we're still alive in the morning. Kiku asks to be the one to be allowed to vanquish Kanjuro. She promises to actually do it for good this time. Kinemon is planning to try and go and protect Momonosuke, and he says to the rest to scatter and join the fight. Cat Viper happens to come across Shishilian and Berietti, and asks what they're up to. So everyone kind of like splits off in their own directions, basically. While that's going on, Cat Viper talks with Shishilian, and who explains, oh yeah, Pedro died, by the way, over on Big Mom's Island. He didn't know about that, so finally got up to speed on that point. But Barietti, who is the monkey riding around on Shishilian's back, says, the one who caused Pedro's death is here on the island. Carrot and Wanda were fighting him, but their anger got the best of them. Yeah, that's what happened. That's why I had to rush back to warn Commander Shishilian. And Cat Viper says, well done, Pedro. You died for a noble cause. The opportunity to avenge you is on this island. And he takes a big mighty leap and sees just fly off. So, then we cut to where Momonosuke is hiding with Shinobu and Yamato, and Yamato says, I'll be a decoy. Here, look, see this little sack of stuff I tied together? This will be you, and it'll be right around in my clothes to distract people. And he's got a really weird little look on his face as he says this. So he runs off, leaving Momonosuke in Shinobu's protection. Yamato asks, hey, Luffy's all right, right? And Momonosuke says, he's the same as earlier, weakened but well, but now there are only two voices. So Yamato realizes that there's a one-on-one fight now between Luffy and Kaido, and he says, I have to hurry. All of my father's adventures, I've heard so many, Momonosuke says, all of my father's adventures, I've heard so many stories, but now, and he starts to read Odin's diary. Then we cut over to where Sanji is. He has a bandaged cross on his back. What's going on? And eventually someone says, that might be Pirate Hunter Zoro in there. And yes, it's Zoro. And Sanji's mad at the unconscious Zoro for making things worse for him. We get a flashback to explain that when Law teleported himself and Zoro down off the roof, they were going to land out in the ocean. Sanji used his skywalk and went out and caught them. Zeus happened to be there as well, and he was like, hey, Zeus, what about Nami? And Zeus ran away. Sanji's upset that girls didn't fall into his arms because that's his thing. And then Law says, oh, you take him, Blackleg. I gotta go. And just leaves Sanji with Zoro, and Sanji's pissed off, like, I don't know medic. So he just wrapped his entire body up in bandages because that's all he knows how to do. Zoro was still conscious at the time, so he kind of like briefly explained what the hell happened. And Sanji says, well, I hope Luffy's okay up there. And Zoro answers, it seemed like he figured something out. He's gonna win. Okay. So Sanji doesn't really know where to go now. He's running around, kicking people while carrying Zoro around. Hooray. Zoro says briefly that they should go to the performance floor, and then he falls asleep. Then we cover to Big Mom, and she has just knocked page 1 out because of, Toko's village getting burned down by Kaido's men. Ulti comes rushing in, and she's upset, of course, that page 1's been hurt. So Nami tries to direct Big Mom's anger towards Ulti, and by saying, she's the one who did the thing that made you sad. Good job, Minami. It's a great lie. It's a great one. But Big Mom hates the Straw Hat still, so she starts yelling at Nami and Usopp as well. So then Nami is like, Ulti! Girl, go get her! Go get Big Mom! And LG's like, fuck you! And so, yeah, it's not going to work. They're not going to be manipulated. They're both too volatile. So they try and escape on Komachiyo, but Ulti just comes dashing in, ricochets off the walls, and slams her head into Komachiyo's side and knocks the poor dog cow thing out. And it's knocked out, and Ulti's really pissed off now. She says it's time to put you out of your misery, and she starts kicking Komachiyo while he's down. Tama is upset, demands she stop it, and so Ulti slaps Tama across the face. And Nami gets fucking pissed off. Big Mom gets pissed off too. But Nami says, so Usopp says to Nami that they need to take Tama and run. But while Big Mom is saying, did you just hit my friend, little girl? And Ulti's like, well, you just smashed my little bro. But before she can finish, Nami takes her climb attack and smacks Ulti with fucking lightning. And she says, who said you could hit Tama? And Usopp is freaked out, but Nami says, I can't leave. She hit a child. I'm going to stay and crush her. So Nami's getting serious, and that's where the chapter ends.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a really cool moment for Nami.
Yeah. It's an awesome little moment. You don't really see Nami be like, I'm going to fight, so...
I do. There's a part of me that's like, I still really want her and Usopp to team up, though, so I still hope that happens.
Zeus, of course, is heading towards where Big Mom is, and Nami happens to be there as well. And Nami needs some more powerful lightning, so we'll see.
Yeah, lots of little teases in here. I definitely had to stop to be like, where the fuck is the production or performance floor where Zoro told Sanji to go? That's where Queen, I believe, is.
Okay.
And I think King's also there, and Marco and everything like that. That's where the Ice were. So I had to look that up. So it looks like we are probably going to get Zoro and Sanji versus King and Queen after all.
Once Chopper takes a proper look at Zoro and is like, oh, you just need 2 Band-Aids. Here we go.
Yeah. It's Zoro. He'll be fine. I'm sure we're going to get still get a big fight out of this.
Yeah. So we got that going on. Yamato indicating that he is going to at least be present for the end of Kaido and Luffy's fight, potentially. So, but we'll see how that goes. There's a lot of moving pieces still at work. People being like, I'm going to fight that guy. I'm going to fight that guy. I'm going to fight that guy. So who knows if
Sparrow is out there and kind of teased. I don't know if it was this chapter or last chapter that Cat Viper's like, oh, cool. The person who killed Pedro is here. I'm going to go kill him. So there's definitely a lot of like moving things kind of going on right now.
But the big highlight definitely is Nami being a boss. So,
all right, let's wrap this up real quick then.
Yes, favorite chapter and MVP for this week. Let's go.
Favorite chapter. I'm gonna give it. I did actually like Nine Balls Dragon Parade a lot. I'm torn between that or actually no. You know what? It's first time in there. I'm gonna give it to Undead Unluck. I think it was a cool chapter.
Me too.
Look at that.
It was a really good chapter.
All it took was 1 week and boom, already we're on board. My character of the week is Magna, though. I thought it was a really cool chapter for him. But I know I gave it to him last week, but I think this is like the only time maybe in the series Magna's ever going to get to look cool.
This is going to be an odd one, but I do really feel it deep down in my bones. I'm going to give it to Kikuchihara for thinking that Kitazoe's reasons for putting the team together were really stupid. And just be like, what the fuck is wrong with all of you?
I love the audience was like Dr. Stone and Suika. And he, like, you instead of doing what Suiko went with, like, this one dude who called Kitazoe rightfully an idiot for picking
He didn't even call him that. He's just like, I can't fucking believe this.
Oh, man, that's great.
Suiko was great, but I've been giving it to Suiko a lot recently, I think. So, yeah. All right, so that is going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap. We want to thank everyone for joining us for the show, which we record here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesdays in the evening, starting sometime usually around 7:30. You can also follow us on Twitter to stay updated on exactly when we're going live, or join the Discord chat, because on the Discord, we send a notification when the stream starts. And the Discord is also a great place. You can find the Google Doc that Ninja X3i maintains that keeps track of our recommendations, the votes for MVP and favorite series, all sorts of very useful statistics and records. You can also join that community because we have all sorts of great conversations on there with our fans, and weekly Manga Us games Saturday mornings. Fun times. And want to thank people who support us on Patreon, who will ask great bonus content for you guys to enjoy. Check out, of course, monthly other recap when that gets posted by Chris. And we want to thank the people who help make our show what it is: Steve Mann, our title card artist, and Wednesday Dutch Cheddar, and Milo Jack Stills for creating the opening sequence of the show, which is posted to YouTube, which is one of the places you can find the show, along with weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, Spotify, iTunes, all places where podcasts can be listened to, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What will we be reading for next time?
So, Nick, we just got rid of Ayakashi Triangle, and I
Yes,
thought it would only be fitting to take a look at a previous Yabuki work. We're going to be taking a look at not his porn, because we don't do porn. So it's not.
I'm not sure he's actually written porn. He might have.
To Love Ru basically. I mean, he didn't write that. He just drew it. We're going to be taking a look at Black Cat, his first big breakout hit. It was first recommended by Manga Man ZX. So we're going to take a look at that.
All right. Well, we'll see what that's about then.
Indeed. And that is it. We're going to disappear. If you're listening to this right live, we're just going off air. If you're listening to this, the podcast, we're disappearing. And who knows where we go when you stop listening to the podcast. Perhaps we only exist in a small box that we are only allowed out of into existence when you start listening to us. And what happens after that, no one knows. Or we're both going to get something to eat or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, sounds about
right.
right.
Get more water.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.